It's kind of we'll count it. We'll count it.
If you're watching on the stream, Gold's wearing our brand new shirt from Raygun that says "Listen harder, listen longer." Thanks to AM radio waves curing erectile dysfunction.
That's right,
according to at least one study.
These shirts are available. RayGunSite.com. RayGunSite.com. You can buy them. Some of you already have. I told you I ordered one last Friday. It came in yesterday, and I said I would wear it here on a Friday. It's Club 610 Friday coming up in the 1 o'clock hour today. We'll have a couple special guests stopping by. I'm not even aware of what the cocktail is yet today, so I'll be surprised with you guys as well coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, presented by Jay Rieger &
Co. It's a whiskey-based cocktail today.
Fair enough.
It is called a New York Sour. So lemon juice, whiskey, simple syrup. It gets a red wine floater. Never had it.
Interesting.
Never had it.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out.
Okay. That's in the 1 o'clock hour a little bit later on today. And a reminder, if you want to join us for a future Club 610, today is the last day to be entered for a future Club 610 spot. All you got to do, if you haven't already, is subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where we stream the show, along with Facebook and other areas, Twitter, Twitch as well. Facebook, not today, unfortunately, but that's the long story on that one. But YouTube.com/ @610sportscase.
The story's actually not that long. It's, do you sometimes get company emails that tell you something and you're like, I'll deal with that later? That's what happened.
It didn't get dealt with a month ago. Anyway,
so now,
YouTube is the key today anyway.
Subscribe
on YouTube, please. It's free. It takes 5 seconds. And if you do that, you'll be entered for a future Club 610 spot. As far as Sunday goes, though, we were just on the roundtable with Bob and Josh. We were talking about these wide receivers a little bit. And we did this right before the start of the season. And we were going through, at that point, we could really draft any of the receivers. We did a little draft, and we were like, all right, who's going to finish with the most receiving yards out of the four you and I drafted, or the three you and I drafted? It's funny almost to look back at that now just because of injuries and...
Who got Rashee Rice in that deal? Because that's the winner. You had Watson, which is now hurting you a little bit. I think I had Rice.
I think I had Tony, Richie James, and Justin Watson.
Well, MVS was my top pick.
Two of them are hurt.
MVS was my number one pick.
That's not good.
At least I got Rashee Rice in the deal, but I screwed up on the MVS.
So it was funny to look back. I mean, two of my guys are hurt. One's on IR. The other one's just been a massive disappointment. So now if we were to rank out, we're not going to draft them, but if we were to rank out the four players from least receiving yards to the most, we're talking just wide receivers, not including Travis Kelce here. And I'm curious where you guys are at, 913-586-7610. Who's having the least out of this group of players? Sky Moore, McCole Hardman, Kadarius Toney, Rashee Rice. If you start from least to most, how are you ranking this out? Because
Rice is one, right? Can we agree there?
Yeah, if you want to go from most and then to least, sure.
Well, it doesn't really, let's just agree that however we're doing this order, Rice is going to have the most yards.
Absolutely. He's got the most optimism going forward. I don't know how he can't, based off of what we've seen and hopefully what is a continued increased role beginning this Sunday. And a little extra time. I know McCole Hardman's part of the picture now. We'll see, by the way, if McColl's even active on Sunday. I think that's still a little bit up in the air. We'll learn more about that this afternoon when we hear from Andy Reid.
Okay, I think Rashee Rice is number one. In descending order, God, with absolutely zero confidence, I will take McCole Hardman second, Kadarius Toney third, and Sky Moore last? Look, I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer here, but at this point, all three of those guys aren't performing. I'll still take their word that they want to throw it to Kadarius Toney Moore.
Yes,
I left MVS off this list. I guess you could have included him at third or fourth.
Let's add MVS as a possibility because let's go ahead and do that. So I would have, obviously, Rashee Rice as the most likely to have the most receiving yards the rest of the season out of the wide receiver group. After Rashee Rice, I'll still go with Kadarius Toney at number two when this thing is all said and done. Then I will go with MVS, then McCole Hardman, then Sky Moore.
We both have Sky last.
I do, but I have MVS maybe higher than you do. Just because the snaps are still there, man.
Yeah, but they're for Sky too.
I know, but still, I've seen a 700-yard receiving season in the past from MVS. But yeah, Rashee Rice won.
No, I'd still have to put MVS ahead of McCole Hardman. Yeah. If I'm adding him to the mix, it's got to be Rashee Rice, MVS, McCole Hardman, Toney, and Moore. What a terrible list all of a sudden. And when you start going through it, the funny part about this is that everything except for Rashee Rice feels completely up in the air. Think about this. Because at no stage are any of us confident that the number two wide receiver be any of the guys we listed. Currently, it's Justin Watson. I only left him off because of injury. I figured, well, if he misses a couple of games, we're all going to put him last probably. So let's just leave him off for now.
Rashee Rice is 245. That's the most of any wide receiver on the team right now. Justin Watson has 219. As you just said, he's hurt. Then Sky Moore would be the next receiver in line, 145. MVS sitting on 116. So, and then Kadarius Toney at 92 yards. And then further down the list is Justin Ross.
So you're still buying
34.
into the Toney thing, which I think is not a bad strategy by any means.
Well, because Cody, all it takes
average
is
depth
one
of target is like 2 yards or something.
I know. But for this exercise, the difference between what Sky Moore has receiving and what Kadarius Toney have receiving is like 50 yards. It's one. I mean, it's one game, and suddenly, just like that, you would be telling me that Kadarius Toney had the third most wide receiver yards on the team. I mean, nobody's running away with this thing. That's why it's still so jumbled. And Justin Watson's going to miss a couple games, so. That's what's kind of interesting about the conversation around this wide receiver room. It speaks to the greater issue they've had with wide receivers, that everybody's so close, but nobody has over 300 yards receiving yet.
Because the optimist, Bob was talking about when we were in the round table, right? There's optimism and there's pessimism. The optimist is always like, hey, this is just really good balance. I'm like, balance is relative. When we were talking about balance going into the year from the wide receiver unit, we didn't all want them to only be 350-yard wide receivers. That's not the kind of balance we were seeking. The kind of balance we're seeking now here the rest of the way is, let's just call it, let's just round up even. You're like, all right, the bottom 2/3 of the year, right? And all these guys are on pace for like 500 yards. Really what we're seeking for here the rest of the way is Rashee Rice plays like an 800-yard receiver, as in he doesn't get 800 yards the rest of the way, but he plays like that the rest of the season, similar to how he has the last couple of games. And then one other guy steps up into the I'm a 650-yard wide receiver, then the rest can all be 4, right? I can live my life with a balance just as long as there are at least, and I think that this was their plan, at least 2 names that you can trust going forward. That's what's fun about this exercise, is that I think if we asked 100 people, they would all put Rice. I think 99 out of 100 would put Rashee Rice first. And then the other 4, I'm not sure we'd get the same 4 in order from any of the other 100 people, I bet it'd be like someone would be like, well, I think it's Toney, then MVS, then McColl, then Sky. And you're saying, Toney, MVS, McColl, it could be any version, any order, I think, beyond that. And I wouldn't call you crazy for suggesting it.
Someone on the text line, 913-586-7610, basically said, hey, this isn't fantasy football. I totally agree. But what you said is it's still 4 guys having 300 yards receiving was not part of the plan. Somebody is going to emerge more. I think the answer is Rashee Rice. I still think somebody like Rashee Rice is going to end up with 750 or 800 yards receiving in the wide receiver room, and then Travis Kelce will probably have close to 1,000 yards when this thing is done. And the question is, okay, if Rashee Rice, let's just use him as the example, ends up with 800 yards or 750 yards receiving, then who's the next closest? Is it MVS at 400 yards, or is it MVS or somebody else at 600 yards?
Yeah.
And right now it's looking like there's going to be multiple guys in the 300 to 400 yard range. But I still think this offense is a work in progress, clearly, and yet they're the top 10 offense in football. They're sitting at 5-1. We're all talking about they have an ability to bury the Chargers on Sunday afternoon.
If you look at the books, guys, they would say, just not looking ahead for the season, but based on this weekend, Rashee Rice would be 1, Kadarius Toney 2, Sky Moore would be 3, Marquez Valdez-Scantling 4. They do not have McCole Hartman at all on the list.
Yeah, we don't even know if he's going to be active. And that's just based off of over-under receiving yards for Sunday.
Yes, simply based on that.
Dude, MVS is over-under receiving yardage. Clue to how I might be thinking. It's so low, I'm very tempted. I'll let you guys talk me in or out of it later, but it's so low now. I remember we used to look at it and be like 22.5, and I'm like, oh, man, it's 1 catch. It's like almost 10 yards below that nowadays because he's just out there running like a dud. But I would point out to the text line, neither of us are like overly worried that the Chiefs are in deep trouble based on the way the wide receivers have currently played. But when you are the kind of team like the Chiefs who are constantly looking for ways to win Super Bowl championships, you like to take those flaws, and this is one of the few they have, and figure out a way where it's going to get better. I just thought it was a fun exercise because we did it before the season. We could not have been more wrong realistically because Toney and MVS, who were probably the number 1 and number 2 overall picks when we did this, both are non-existent.
Well, that goes back to yesterday's conversation of actually, about McCole Hardman. And would McCole Hardman have been traded back to Kansas City if everything was going great with Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney? And I know people will push back and say, well, Watson's hurt. I don't know how you can tell me that McCole Hardman would be back in Kansas City if things were going great on the Kadarius Toney Sky Moore experiment, if you will. MVS, though, I mean, at some point, I do think some of the numbers are going to come along for him. He's getting way too many snaps for eventually and not to relate and bring in some production. But his targets are also way down, meaning he's not even getting open because he had 81 targets last year. He's got 12 so far, Cody. We're heading into week 7 of the season. He's only got 12 targets. He had 81 last year when he was almost a 700-yard receiver.
And that was with Juju Smith-Schuster on the field with him at the same time. So, I mean, logically, he should be above that. This game this weekend's really interesting to me because I think we spent a good chunk of this week, and I don't think wrongfully so, talking about how the division will be over if the Chiefs win, which I think we all agree on. It'll be the Chiefs division. They'll be up 3.5 games. The next team in the division technically won't even be the Chargers. It'll be the Raiders, a team we don't take seriously. I think it's important to realize real quick that this game means a lot to the Chiefs as well because as easy it is to be like, this is the Chargers season, all on the line. Massive swing this weekend. If they beat the Chargers, division over. You're still the leader of the pack for the AFC title. You have now beaten another difficult team on your division right before you're getting ready to head into the most difficult part of your schedule where you're going to have to take on Philly and Miami. And a couple weeks after that, you're going to have to take on Buffalo. You lose the game, and now you've got 2 losses into a losable stretch. You've reopened the door, at least cracked it, right? It'd be slam damn shut if they went on Sunday. You've reopened the door to the Chargers' possibility of winning the division. You have let other teams take control of the reins for the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's a big swing game for the Chiefs. Keep your thumb on them and just end this thing.
Typically, we know that's been something even during these Super Bowl runs that they haven't done a whole lot in divisional games with the Chargers, right? These have been very close games. Typically, the last 3 have been decided by 3 points. The Chargers truly play up to the Chiefs level, and we can talk all we want about the Chiefs playing down, but I think when they play the Chargers, it really is the Chargers' best shot. And I think that's what they'll get on Sunday. I don't think this Chargers team, though, in some ways is even as good as last year whatsoever, though. I mean, I think they're banged up. They're coming off a short week in this particular case. Justin Herbert's not right. Maybe it's the hand injury. I don't know. He's missing guys. The only offense they have really is Keenan Allen right now. They've been able to
back, so maybe they get him involved.
They're able to scheme Keenan Allen open, but Herbert's been missing him. And then we all know about the defense. It's horrendous. And they're playing off a lot of name recognition, as you and I have talked about for the last couple of weeks, just watching the Chargers a little bit. But you're right. It's massive for the Chargers because if they have any hope, they have to win. But yeah, the Chiefs, they can give themselves some padding, some cushion here, not just in the division, but what you're talking about, which is knowing that, hey, there's some really tough games coming up. Not that the Chiefs can't win both against the Eagles and the Dolphins, but you might split them. They're definitely losable games for you. The Chiefs will be favorites in both of them, by the way. But still, you want to give yourself some cushion because in Kansas City, we know it's about the path to a Super Bowl and winning championships. That's what they're graded on, and the number 1 seed allows you the best path. And you might have watched a little Thursday Night Football yesterday. The Jaguars, while they still don't look like this dominant team, they're doing what we thought they would do. We talked about it. They're not going to necessarily be the best team in the AFC, but record-wise, they might end up being the number 1 seed or right there. And that's why the Week 2 win the Chiefs had over the Jags is so important because of the tiebreaker. The Jags are going to rack up a bunch of wins. And so you need to make sure that you leave yourself some wiggle room if you were to drop a game against the Eagles or Dolphins later, that it's your second loss of the season, not your third or your fourth loss.
Or an even more surprising loss, man. I mean, those do happen. Like if you drop to Green Bay or something. I don't anticipate they're going to lose to Green Bay. That's a team they're definitively better than. But if you just even look at the schedules, the Jags could give you a little bit of breathing room because they have to go to the Steelers and play the 49ers the next couple of weeks. They have a difficult stretch in their schedule, too. If you just take care of the first leg of this, I'm already penciling them in for 7-1. I'll just be honest. Looking forward to the Broncos game next week. That's a dub.
Chiefs are already 8.5-point favorites for next week's game.
On the road, that's a dub. And so when you look ahead to what that might be, you give yourself all the reliable, even if you went 1-2, let's say in that Eagles, Bills, and Dolphins trio of games. Well, the other 2 games in between those are very winnable against bad teams that include the Raiders. And you find yourselves like, okay, what do I have? 3 losses, 2/3 of the way through the season. All I got to do is go 3-2 these next few games, and I'm going to win the division for sure. Go 4-1, find my way into the AFC at the top of the AFC record board again. It's a big swing game. That's all. It doesn't decide the fate for the Chiefs for any particular reason. It doesn't cost them the division. It doesn't cost them the number 1 seed. It doesn't lose them those things. but it gives them a really good, firm control of all of those things by beating the Chargers on Sunday.
Yeah, and odds-wise, I mean, the Chiefs have been heavy favorites to win the AFC West for quite some time. They're now minus 470. You can't even bet them to win the division. I mean, there's no value. I mean, they're minus 470. The Chargers are 6-1 to win the AFC West.
What is it if you think the Chargers win this weekend?
What does it switch to?
Yeah,
my guess is the Chiefs would still be
minus 300?
I was going to say minus 350, minus 300, even if that happened.
Plus 400 probably or something for the Chargers?
Yeah.
Are the Chargers still the second best odds? Not the Raiders
Absolutely.
somehow, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in the Raiders.
Nobody's
buying what they got going on. They've had a soft schedule. To their credit, they found a way to win against bad teams, so you don't apologize for wins. But they have to get the Bears this weekend. Their starting quarterback's hurt. So is the Bears' starting quarterback.
Real quick, you mentioned the Jags. Am I a hater because I'm like, I don't see it still? Does that make me?
I don't think you're alone.
I'm not trying to be the guy who's like the antagonist in this situation for Jags fans. When I watch them play, and I've watched them play multiple times this year, not blown away. Just constantly like, yeah, you're a pretty good team. But I don't fear them the way I would fear other teams come playoff time at the moment. They still seem like they've got problems.
Some of it's the name. Like, it's hard to get past that. We've talked about it with the Lions, right? Some of it is still the name and forgetting that the past doesn't matter. When it comes to name recognition or anything like that, when we're discussing this year. But I'm with you. It goes back to, as I said a few minutes ago, heading into the season, most of us thought the Jags were going to rack up a bunch of wins. But nobody actually thinks they're as good. Before the season, we would have said as good as Cincinnati and Kansas City. They're better than Cincinnati now, that's clear. But nobody would have thought they'd be in that conversation. They have a chance to win 13 or so games this year, the Jags do. But nobody's actually going to believe they're the best team because they're not in the AFC. Like, I don't think Jacksonville's better than the Bills. I understand they beat the Buffalo Bills, right? We saw that play out. The Jags have won 4 in a row. I don't really still think, like in a playoff game, would I bet on the Jags to beat the Bills again? No, I would not, to your point. Like, watching them, and that maybe is, you're like, they played head-to-head. How can you say that the Bills are better? I still think the Bills are a better football team than the Jags. If that game's not in London, I think the Buffalo Bills fare a little bit better. But like Texline said, the Jags are not better than Cincinnati. Okay.
I mean, if you made me draft a team to play in the postseason right now, you're like, all right, lock it in AFC Championship game. You can get Cincinnati or the Jags. Jags. Because that also means Cincinnati did some stuff.
But it's like Cincinnati, how they're playing right this second.
Yeah, you don't fear them as much. I understand. They're playing right now. The Jags are definitely playing like a better team than Cincinnati. I have no argument against that. That
goes back to the name thing, though. Like, that's what I just said. Like, if we know the skill, nobody's saying the skill players on Jacksonville are better than Cincinnati. The point is take the names away. Team A, Team B, and Team B, and just watch how both are playing. If you didn't have any clue, one was the Jags, one was Cincinnati, you would not even be hesitating saying the team that is Team B, in this case the Jags, is better than Team A. But because one is named Cincinnati, you think they're automatically better. That's fine. We're all guilty of this.
What's funny is Cincinnati used to be the exact name we're talking about. They had stink all over their name for years. But make a couple of AFC title games in a row, go to a Super Bowl, get a franchise-level quarterback, and we're obviously having a different conversation. For me with the Jags, it's I know Trevor Lawrence is physically gifted, and I know that he has a ton of talent. And there are times when that talent shines. I don't think it shines through as much as the other elite guys. It just looks really pretty. And I think sometimes we get hung up on, like, he made that pass, even on that double reverse flea flicker. That was an absolute dart of a throw that he hit that guy with. And you're like, man, that's a cross field. That throw's probably 30 yards, hit him on a dime for like an 8-yard gain. But then he never does that for like 4 games in a row where I'm like, he's on a tear. That man's unstoppable. That's all I'm waiting for out of the Jags. I mean, obviously their coach has won a Super Bowl, so I can't deny the coach-quarterback combination of those things. I'm just like not fully sold on them yet. That's all I was asking. We were talking about them last night.
At any point this year,
they maybe should have lost last night.
At no point, at any point this year, do I think the Jags will be the best team in the AFC. Before the season, we gave our predictions for number 1 seeds, and I said I think the Jags could be the number 1 seed, not because they're going to be the best team in the AFC, but their schedule is super favorable. Super favorable. Even if the Texans are playing better, they get the AFC South. And the AFC West, we can talk all we want about the Chiefs' domination. The AFC West is still overall a better division in terms of what we would look at compared to the AFC South. I mean, now, especially with the Colts, they're playing Gardner Minshew the rest of the season.
Yeah, they do have a favorable decision. I haven't looked at their their schedule the rest of the way. I'm going to guess because of their division, it's not all that difficult. I don't want to say for sure, but I'm going to assume. I mean, they just play the Saints. That's a game that if you play the
schedule. Jacksonville is right with Kansas City actually now.
Sounds right.
And a lot of it is because what we discussed, where suddenly the Chargers are viewed as how they scale it out, as viewed as an easy opponent, even if we think it's not. They have on the same scale the Chargers and Chiefs is the same as Jacksonville playing Tennessee. Now we can roll our eyes at them and be like, okay, we still think the Chargers are better than the Tennessee Titans.
I'll say this. I think there's a pretty good chance the Jags are going to be favored in literally every single game except for the home game against the 49ers. I think that is the only game in which they will not be favored.
Yeah. Well, and on the flip side, the Chiefs are going to be favored in every game the rest of
No,
the way.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I think the Jags schedule is not that difficult. Even the difficult opponents and the few that they have, like, let's say the Ravens, they're getting at home later in the year. So maybe that thing would be a different way. But, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's like I watch them play, and it's not even meant to be a knock. I just watch them play, and I'm like, I mean, I can kind of see it, but it's just like I'm never fully sold on them. Some of that might just be because their name's the Jaguars, and they were trying to move to London for several years. I don't know, but it's like parts of their play. And then they almost let the Saints come back and beat them last night. They let them right back into that damn game. But the Chiefs let the Jets back into the game.
Yeah,
so
it happens. The NFL, man.
It's not like it doesn't happen.
It's not college football. Teams
They
aren't
held on to win.
consistently winning by 20 points. This is not. I mean, it's the NFL. It's impressive anytime you find a way to win by more than one score. I mean, it just is. All right, coming up next, though, one thing that is happening defensively for the Chiefs, while another thing is actually failing. What makes sense here? We'll try to figure that out next here on Cody and Gold.
Chiefs fans, it's Scott Moore.
Coming up a little bit later on here in about 30 minutes, we'll be joined by Pete Sweeney, our Chiefs insider from Arrowhead Pride. We'll get his thoughts on. I want to ask him if he thinks McCole Hardman's going to be active on Sunday, and if he is, what's the role going to look like? Again, I know everybody's assuming he is, but that's not a sure thing considering he just showed up.
I'm waiting to bet McCole Hardman anytime touchdown.
It's not available
just
yet.
Give me the chance.
You are not alone. I think a lot of people are going to pounce on that. And as I said, one, let's see if he's active. But even when it's available, what's the number? I mean, if he's like plus 250, it's not. I'm not betting that. But if you can get McCole Hardman at like 5-1. Or 6-1 for an anytime touchdown, then I'm intrigued by it. But if he's got, plus 250 to get a touchdown, I'm like, I'm not really getting much value. Bob mentioned to us earlier that Rashee Rice for a first touchdown, not any, but first touchdown of the game is like 15-1. I don't hate
that.
It's just tough because we know they've got, even if they're struggling in the red zone, there are so many different avenues they can go in the red zone right now.
And we know that if the Chiefs get the ball, they're deferring. Like, part of me is just always like, they're just going to give the other team the football
Chargers, yeah.
to start the damn game. So, like, that part always gets me a little bit.
So you almost
with the
need him to
Chiefs.
lose the coin toss is what you're saying.
Yeah, kind of. Like, I need him to lose the coin toss and then go down and score. And they haven't been very good in the first drives of games. It hasn't been that uncommon for the other team to score first, but I don't know. I do like betting first touchdown bets here or there,
That's
and I'm
fun.
2 for my last 3.
Hey.
I don't bet 1 a week, but I've probably bet 4 or 5 this year, and I'm 2 for my last 3, so feeling good. Might get frisky with the Chiefs this weekend. There is a stat that I think probably concerns some Chiefs fan, but I'm here to tell you I don't care. How about that, Gold? Don't care about a concerning stat overall involving pressures. Yeah, a hot topic on this show, certainly at any time. The Chiefs are currently 6th in the NFL in sacks. You'd be like, okay, great. Do you know that despite that, they rank dead last in pressures in the NFL? They're the worst team in the NFL at creating pressure, but are 6th in sacks. So something doesn't add up here, right? Either they're getting too many sacks for the amount they're pressuring the quarterback, or vice versa. The pressures are going to come along with it. I think the reason I decided I don't care is I don't think, and I never thought, that they were a perfectly flawless defensive line. Chris Jones was their star, and then they had a lot of rotational depth. They didn't have a second guy that was for sure the guy. I thought Karlaftis could turn into a 10-sack player this year. So far, a little bit slow to that start. Not totally ruling it out, but a little bit slow to that start overall at 2.5 sacks. I just think that at this point, I got to let the pressures go if they're getting the sacks because they are the best blitzing team in the NFL. Trent McDuffie ranks tops in the league at blitzing, not just coverage, by the way, and also blitzing inside of those areas. We see what they do with Snead. They're good with using the linebackers. They move Chanel around. So if they're not getting consistent pressure all the time, the fact that they can get sacks tells me that when they have to get pressure, they are. It's why I'm not worried about it.
It's funny. It's normally flipped. I mean, how many years are we?
Oh God, that they were like, I got so sick and tired of talking about
how many
they're
years?
good at getting pressure and they can't get sacks. I'm like, well, that's the only thing that matters.
That was the only thing. We was always like, oh well, they're getting pressure. They're just not getting the sacks. And now you're telling me they're getting the sacks, but the pressures aren't there. I also wonder what's the gap. I think just a week or two ago we had a conversation about how they were at that point 19th in sacks, and we're like, man, they're like a sack away from jumping up to 9th, and here they are,
Happened quick.
And so I wonder even on pressures, like how narrow is the gap? We're still early enough in the season from these stats where it's like, hey, you have one game where suddenly you have 2 sacks and you have 6 pressures, and all of a sudden you jump up 8 spots. That's the only thing
you
where
bully
I'm not
one offensive line once.
Yes, I'm not freaking out. Which, by the way, the Chargers' offensive line, other than Slater, the left tackle, they can be had. They're Lindsley's out. Unfortunately, he's on IR with a heart condition or whatever. So they have a backup center. Herbert's really good at avoiding the sack himself, but the offensive line isn't like some stone wall that you can't break through. I mean, the Chiefs should be able to get pressure on Herbert. He does just a really nice job of avoiding it, except at the very end of the game we all watched on Monday night where Micah Parsons just destroyed that O-line and got to him quick.
Look, and we care about stats because, to me, I cared about sacks more in those years that we were talking about. Previous years, we've made a big deal about their inability to get the actual sack number. And why it held back their defense for years is because they weren't as good as this defense. I care less about sacks when it's not impacting your ability to play defense. You are holding teams down as well as anyone in the NFL. So
got the secondary to match.
Yeah, that's it. They can't, if they just get pressure sometimes, their secondary and their linebackers are so damn good, Gold, that those numbers don't have to be astronomical. They probably don't have to send blitzes quite as often. They don't have to get pressure from the front four quite as often. And I think that buys me a little bit of time of panic. I also do happen to know that they're getting Charles Omenihu back and just haven't added, I think, technically.
That's the thing.
Frank Clark.
Do you see
That's a little concerning.
The updated report on that was that the teams have to report if somebody comes to the facility, like a player, like Frank Clark, and they didn't report that. So even though all the tweets from himself and Carrington and others hey, he's coming to the facility Thursday for a physical, something happened there. It sounds like he didn't end up showing up. I don't know. Maybe they're waiting till next week because of roster crunch wise. They
buy themselves
who
a week.
knows? I still think he ends up in Kansas City, but it didn't happen yesterday.
He's probably crashing on Chris Jones' couch as we speak. Are you kidding?
He comes in town tonight, maybe.
Yeah.
Right, and he can be at the game on the sideline Sunday afternoon, or
He's
he can be
in
up in the
Travis's
suite.
with Taylor Swift
Yeah.
and Donna Kelsey.
Well, maybe I think there's an open spot this weekend. As of right now, there's not a whole lot of talk whether or not Taylor Swift's going to be at the game Sunday or not. We'll get to Taylor Swift in a second
worry,
if
we
you
will
want as
cover
well.
that. I think it'd be easy to be worried that somehow regression to the mean should be coming because, pressures lead to sacks. So if you're not getting pressures, how are you getting the sacks? Won't eventually that go away? But I just think the way that they're fundamentally designed does not suggest concern over that. And I just like that at least you've got the right coach for it. And if they're getting them at the right time, then why do I care? If they're coming in the moments, like the Chiefs defense, have they faltered for you late in the game, Gold? No. In those moments, that seemingly is when they're getting it's like Micah Parsons, like you mentioned, late in the game. Late in the game, when they damn sure need it. Guess who shows up? One Chris Jones.
How do you think people nationally are viewing the Chiefs? Because I saw that this is interesting. I don't usually bring these up on the show. You might get the email too. There's something called the Power Poll, and it's something new this season. A longtime NFL writer started it, and it's basically a lot of NFL media members, and they ask you to vote in it every week. And admittedly, I don't always vote, okay? But there are different topics around the league each week. And this one caught my attention because it's about the defense. And the topic basically was the NFL's best defense. And it went through and pulled national media members that cover the sport. And I'm not surprised at the result, but this just tells me the Chiefs are still being slept on defensively. And hey, people aren't used to thinking Chiefs defense. They're used to thinking Mahomes.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with who was voted the most, but by far the Cleveland Browns and then the San Francisco 49ers were voted as the top defense in football. After that, it was Baltimore, Dallas, Philadelphia, Detroit, then Kansas City, and then New England and New Orleans were the other options that didn't even get a vote. So the Chiefs aren't getting a ton of national respect defensively, and I think that goes back to, hey, you're always kind of in the shadow of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, even though the defense has been the better unit this year. So this is one poll, okay, but it's still media members that are covering the league, and they have the Chiefs as the seventh best defense in football, when really they're one of the top 2 or 3 units, if not at times the best defense in football currently.
I think it's just because they don't have this goes back to the Chargers thing we're talking about. Like from a national league perspective, a national media perspective, the Chiefs have 1 star in their opinion on defense, just Chris Jones. That's it. That's it. From a national perspective, that's the only guy in defense that the rest of the people nationally care about. Just Chris Jones. They don't mention Trent McDuffie yet. They will soon. Give them time. They'll catch up to Trent McDuffie the same way we feel about Trent McDuffie. But they don't yet. So they haven't caught up to that story. So that is at least a part of what's happening here on that end. But I mean, outside of that, people don't care about linebackers unless you're Fred Warner. How many other elite middle linebackers can you name? If you're trying to name them across the league, 1, right? Just Fred Warner, and then the rest you're probably not
Most
there.
are edge rushers,
Most are
edge rushers, yeah.
or star safeties, like a handful, 3 to 5 safeties, and star corners, handful, 3 to 5. Chiefs only have the 1 defensive lineman that people really talk about in that way, and I assume that that's part of it. I've never voted in that either. I don't know if it's just an open poll for anybody in the media landscape.
It's so exclusive, Cody. You have to have an invite,
Wow, invite.
No, it's some new poll. He started a year or so ago and trying to get traction on it. And for a while, I always voted every week, and sometimes the topics I just have no interest in. It's not like voting in an AP poll. It's here's the topic. Here, and you're supposed to type your comments.
I don't vote for anything anymore. They even took away. I used to vote for Summit League preseason awards. They don't even invite me back for that.
Nice. You need to reconnect.
They don't even
Cody,
invite me for that anymore.
You got to reconnect with your roots, man. You got to reconnect and stuff. We mentioned this the other day about UMKC. You need to reconnect. Start really supporting your alma mater.
I filled out the other day. I filled out the NIL form. I'm waiting back for a response.
You have to get cleared through the
clearinghouse.
clearinghouse.
That's correct.
Okay.
You have to be, they want to make sure that I'm
Did
a
you
legit...
mention it's for Cody and Gold?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But I have applied officially to be allowed to speak to athletes on behalf of this show for NIL purposes.
Okay. All right.
We just have to pick which athlete we're gonna.
Yeah. I want to make sure I get cleared first. Something tells me, just make sure that background check gets
Yeah,
through or
we're
whatever.
going to have an NIL deal with a future or a current UMKC athlete at some point. We're working on it.
I'm going to support the alma mater directly through their student athletes. I cannot get them a truck or whatever those Utah players got. I don't have any access to those things. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Utah. Every scholarship athlete, football player, I should say.
You might be able to get him a listen longer, listen harder shirt though.
I could
Maybe?
get them that. Oh, that for sure. They should wear that pretty much for every Instagram video they put out. Of just the straight Cody and Gold shirt, like the OG one, and then this listen harder, listen longer one.
These are on-air conversations that can be off-air, really, or should be.
You think we need another batch?
We need a new run of just Cody and Gold shirts that we can
Maybe Chiefs colors this
that
time?
we can
Red and gold?
actually give away, not have people purchase.
Well,
We
for
did that
now,
when
you
we
can
first
purchase this
started.
one, but we'll work on it. That's what the show fund's for. We can get enough money in that show fund. I'm happy to just drop it on T-shirts. Don't worry.
All right, we'll get to the trash of the day in a couple of minutes, but let's get back to the Chargers specifically on Sunday. And we know a lot of the conversation this week has been about Justin Herbert, based off of what he did Monday night, what he didn't do, right? And comparing some stats, and he is certainly not in the elite category of quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a category that seemingly he was put in almost the day he stepped into the league, and certainly has put together some performances and certainly had a rookie year that warranted that. But he hasn't elevated from there. And right now, I don't know anybody that's actually paying attention to the league would tell you that Justin Herbert is in the elite quarterback category right now. He's not average. He's still above average. He's in that, to me, 8 to 11 range of quarterback in the league. And it doesn't mean he's going to be there forever. But I think most of us by now thought he would have cemented himself as a top 5, 6, 7 quarterback in football, and he hasn't. I told you I still think coaching is a huge part of this. Anthony Lynn, Brandon Staley have been his head coaches, but it's been disappointing not to see someone with the arm talent and skill level be actually able to play at that level. Not disappointing if you're a Chiefs fan and you just hope the Chargers stink, but from enjoying the NFL, enjoying good quarterback play, he hasn't been at that level that we all thought.
I just assumed at this point we would be embroiled in twice a year heavyweight fight status. And we do not talk about that game like this. We are not talking about this Chargers game on Sunday like that. And they've played a couple of games like that. I just thought every year moving forward in the AFC West, heavyweight fight, twice a year. Their building, our building. Look at these two guys at the top of their respective professions going back and forth. And you're right.
When he plays the Chiefs, though, I will
He
say
plays more like
that's
that.
to say, like last year, week 2 of the season in particular, where he had the broken ribs and he was gunning it out, was pretty impressive. They
That
lost.
throw he still made it still stands out.
I
to me.
think, again, this goes back to the Chargers as a whole. When they're playing the Chiefs, though, I think you do get the best of Justin Herbert, and you get the best of the Chargers.
But like last week, he did not look good in their game. He missed a lot of open passes. He still doesn't quite... He hasn't turned into the quarterback I thought he was going to. And now that means the entire quarterback situation outside of Mahomes in the AFC West is a mess. It's not like they're going anywhere with Herbert. They just paid him a ton of money. But they might be stuck in another Phillip Rivers situation. Like, I'm not saying it's there yet, but it has been closer to heading towards that than it has been the heavyweight fight I just mentioned. The Broncos have to ride out another year or two of Russell Wilson before they can solve their problems, because that's a massive hit. And then the Raiders are lost. They're adrift to sea on a piece of wood looking for some sort of sign of land. They're totally lost. I'm hoping they start Aiden. Well, I mean, they should. I don't really care. They can start Brian Hoyer if they want. It doesn't really matter to me. And what I have to imagine is that has got to be the worst game on the entire NFL slate this year.
By far.
Like, it can't be close. They're already 2 of the worst teams in the NFL.
Bears, Raiders.
And now they are both starting backup quarterbacks, of which apparently Drew has a scouting report on one. Drew, I am to understand you have actually seen, you might be the only person in the entire United States, you have actually seen the Bears backup, I can't even remember his name, the Bears backup quarterback
Tyson
play.
Bagent?
You've seen him play football live?
Yes, I actually have. He is a D2 football player from Shepherd University. I can't tell you where
What?
Shepherd is still, actually.
Shepherd University?
Yes.
That sounds made up. That sounds like where you send your dog for like.
West Virginia.
That Shepherd University is actually
Shepherdstown, West Virginia.
Okay.
They're a D2 school, and I think they were a little bit more of a surprise in the D2 playoffs last year. They happened to make it down to Pensacola, which is where I was working, and played University of West Florida. It didn't go too well for them. It didn't go too well. They were.
Hey, he's starting for the Chicago Bears this weekend. It's worked out just fine.
Yeah, that's right. I think that it'll be interesting, though, to see how he does because apparently he looked really good in the preseason, and he's got an interesting storyline. His dad is a world champion arm wrestler, and I mean, it's just very interesting.
I looked up Shepherdstown because I wanted to know. Population 1,315. Swear to God, the Google photo, like they just haven't bothered to drive through the town in real time. The Google photo of the town, it has a banana yellow 2001 Chevy. God, what is the name of that car? Like a Dodge Neon. It looks like that guy, like a Chevy Cavalier.
I think Cavaliers way. That's what
Chevy Cavalier, banana yellow Chevy Cavalier. I can't believe you're one of the few people who's actually watched this kid play football.
Yeah, I as soon as I saw the name, I was like Tyson Bagent, and I noticed that he was in the later rounds of the draft. Actually, could have been selected. I was like, this is really cool. Actually, evidently he gets to start, and good luck to him. To give you a little bit more of a stat line for him, last year in college.
He's researched him.
70% of his passes were completed, 41 touchdowns, 8 picks, 4,500 yards. Granted, it's D2, but we've seen D2 guys, FCS guys. I mean, Tyreek Hill, D2 guy, have some seriously good success in the NFL. So who knows?
He ended up in D2 for a reason. But yes, point taken.
Maybe the Bears.
Carson
Maybe the Bears don't need Caleb Williams. They don't need Justin Fields. They can take Tyson Bagent, and he's the guy.
God, there almost feels like no way that's going to be the case.
Can you imagine if he actually puts up like 300 yards?
Texline making a good point, at least from this heavyweight fight. It was because the Herbert thing too is Mike Williams has been a Chiefs killer in some of those games in which Justin Herbert performed well.
Yeah,
I don't have a really good grasp on this game because I feel like what it is that I'm overly confident. I'm like, yeah, they're going to win this game. They're better than the Chargers. I've watched the Chargers play multiple times now. They aren't even as good as they were last year based on the way they're playing right now. Herbert's missing their best weapon against them. Eckler's still coming back. Their defense still can't stop anybody. It's like I have a hard time, but then I know better than these divisional games against the Chargers typically are these fights. It's just funny because when Herbert first came in the league, Gold, we all thought we were getting ready to have the number 1 and number 2 quarterback in the same division for years. We were borderline talking about it like it was going to be silly compared to what the Patriots dealt with for so long, right? When the second best quarterback in the division would rotate between Jay Fiedler and JP Lossman. Right? I mean, it was just a rotating cavalcade of guys who couldn't play and Herbert's not there, but he just never developed into the quarterback I thought he was going to, at least not yet.
Trash of the day.
All right, we got 2 choices. I'll let you guys decide.
Okay.
One is the original plan for Trash of the Day, and it involves spicy food items.
Okay.
All right.
That's vague enough.
You've done the Pocky Chip Challenge.
I have done the Pocky Chip
Challenge. Our boss loved when you did that.
He did not.
And then the other one involves a mannequin. Which one would you like?
Look, I got to be honest. The mannequin is kind of tempting in this scenario, given the 2 choices.
Okay. We can do the mannequin one.
Let's do mannequin. Let's do mannequin today.
So this one involves a mall. We were talking, I think, a couple weeks ago, the last time you went to a mall, and just obviously malls are changing. They're adding pickleball courts. They got like some golf simulators in them now. Malls are different now than what they used to be. But you still have the good old clothing store, and there's some mannequins. So you walk by, mannequins, that's normal. Well, this happened in Poland, actually Warsaw, Poland. A 22-year-old man posed as a mannequin in a shop window and then robbed the business after the mall closed. I mean, this is a movie plot right here. According to a CNN affiliate, the poser stole clothes, jewelry, and food on more than one occasion. In one incident, there's surveillance images shared by police caught the suspect sliding under, the gates that they have when they close the stores. They're about to close the stores. He slid under the gate into a store for some new clothes and enjoyed a meal at a restaurant in the mall after it was closed. So everybody's out of the mall, and they thought it was just a mannequin. And then he just basically walked through the mall the rest of the night, stole stuff, ate food. This is like a crappy movie,
Honestly,
straight to Netflix.
Kudos to this guy. This is, unlike some of the other criminals we discussed, although I guess he did get caught, so he's not that good of a criminal. I'm looking at the photo of him just standing there, pretend holding a bag in the department store, ready to go, and it's funny. It's funny that they couldn't catch him at least in the early moment. Like, how do we keep getting robbed? This guy's hiding underneath. Aren't you impressed by his thought process here? I'm just going to pretend to be a
That's
mannequin.
ballsy, I'll tell you that. Just to stand there as a mannequin and hope that nobody...
Would you rather do, like from the last 2 Trash of the Days, if we made a punishment for this show, let's say we made it the Bengals bet. It doesn't have to be, but I'm just saying if it was. If I made you either fake a heart attack or you tried to stand in a store when while they're open as a pretend mannequin for like an hour, which one are you doing? Until they kick you out, right? So either they kick you out or you just stand there for an hour and then
I think
leave.
the mannequin. I would rather do the mannequin than being in a restaurant that's crowded on a Friday night and all of a sudden, when the bill comes, have to pretend that I have a heart attack. That also seems way worse, right? Because you're getting emergency personnel out there involved. That seems way worse. This one, at least, like, they might think is somewhat funny. Before, not including the stealing part, but just standing in the window pretending to be a mannequin and see how long it takes. We've seen that kind of stuff. The NFL will, there's videos NFL teams will do sometimes of someone just pretending.
Those like wax museums, right? Just standing like somewhat near where their wax figure's supposed to be.
It sounds like a Impractical Joker skit. That's what it is.
What store would you do this in? Someone on the text line said, "Okay, so you guys are gonna pose as a mannequin in a store, steal clothes after it closes."
I'm not gonna steal. I just said.
Which store are you doing it in?
Gosh, I don't know. Like if I'm gonna steal, I'm not gonna steal clothes. I'm gonna do this for like a, somewhere where I can get something more expensive. If I'm going to steal, I might as well steal something expensive.
What do you think you're gonna be able to steal?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I might as well steal something expensive at that point. Get behind a jewelry counter or something.
Yeah, but they put away
they mannequins in jewelry stores.
they.
I don't know. I've never worked in a department store.
First of all, yeah, Drew is correct. There's not mannequins in a jewelry store. Otherwise, the other part at night, they put the jewelry in a safe. They don't leave it in the case at night. Spoiler for you there.
For people like you, Cody, who would go and steal
They put the jewelry in a
chain.
safe. Otherwise, you're right. People would just break in when they close all the time. But no, the jewelry goes into a safe in the evening.
All of it?
I think most
Probably,
of it,
yeah, I
most
think
of
so.
it, yeah.
I'll be honest. I've never worked at a department store. Not totally sure how that works.
Yeah.
Feels like a lot of work to empty
Well,
an
it is.
entire
It takes
department store jewelry
the store
counter.
closes, and they have to break down. They have to get carts and put all the jewelry back into a safe.
In order to do what you want to do, Cody, you'd have to be in like a Macy's or a Dillard's.
Yeah, that's what I
and
was
do
thinking.
that.
Like, yeah, but that's what this guy's in. Essentially, he's in a department store in a mall, or like, or you got to do it at like a Target or something, where at least there's some like,
How did people not notice him though? I really feel
he
like
doesn't look anything like the other 2 mannequins.
He's caught red-handed though. Like he's not in disguise. Like clear as day, you can see this 22-year-old's face.
I think what's funny is like, the fact that the person walked out here and didn't think anything of it. The other 2 mannequins here are like just like graphite colored with no faces. He's just like a standard-looking Polish guy. It's like he doesn't look anything like the other 2 mannequins.
Be honest though, if you're walking in the mall, how often are you actually paying attention to the mannequins that closely? Anyway, you kind of just glance and just keep walking. Like you're not really looking at the mannequin most likely.
I feel like you would have to not necessarily backtrack, but you'd have to walk by the person and then come back again and see that they're in the exact same position and be like, wait a minute, I thought this was a real person. What's going on here?
Someone says, I'm picturing Cody standing in a Best Buy trying to pose as a mannequin. The security guard's just sitting there staring at him like, what are you doing, dude?
Holding onto a laptop or something like that?
From the 913, here you go. Used to be a technician for display cases at jewelry stores.
Okay.
A lot of them just flip over and are their own security cases.
Yeah,
Nice.
someone else
They
says
don't go to a separate security case. They are
it depends
the
on the
security
store
case,
because someone else says anything worth stealing is locked in the safe overnight. Yeah, it just depends probably on each store, but yeah. No, it's not just out there in the open in the case.
The things that you can get in there and steal is like the $90 tennis bracelet the 14-year-old's buying, the promise ring he's buying his girlfriend when they're sophomores in high school. Is that what I can swipe?
Yeah, you're not getting. They're not having the $15,000 engagement ring just chilling in the case overnight. Not happening.
Does your dad work at a jewelry store?
Yes.
Could we have just asked him?
Well, where do you think I'm
for
speaking?
some
Where do you think
background information
Where do
on
you
this?
think the knowledge is coming from on this? That's where I'm speaking from.
Either of you ever worked in a department store?
No,
Or
Best Buy. I worked back
worked
in
at a Best Buy, so
in
close,
high school
or-
or junior high / high school. I worked at a Best Buy.
I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean, if I stood there like this for an hour, your arm is getting sore. If you're
But
pretending
would
like you're
somebody
throwing
have
a football,
noticed? Like if you
probably
put on,
yes.
That's what I wonder.
You would have to be fully clothed and then have like a hat that is over your face to really cover up your face.
No, I don't also think the text line saying, "What do you think they just leave thousands of dollars in the cash register?" No,
You used to work at a bank. You should know.
we
this.
didn't put all our money in the vault. It stayed in our drawer.
But you had you still as a bank is a pretty secure facility.
It turns out, I'd assume that part of it that's the way it would work in a jewelry store. That they probably got a pretty good alarm on the inside.
It's not as secure as a bank, though, man.
No, probably not.
All right, coming up next, we get back
We're
into
gonna
the
figure out how to
cheat.
rob a jewelry store after
don't
I've already
say
told
that.
everybody
Don't
in the
say
bank
that.
how to rob a bank. On this
Not
show.
our idea.
Let's not do that at all. Coming up next, we'll talk some Chiefs football. Pete Sweeney, our Chiefs insider from Arrowhead Pride, we'll ask him how much he thinks McCall Hardman is going to help this football team starting on Sunday.
There's Kelsey to the end zone.
Cody and Gold.
Sweeney. Pete Sweeney. Pete Sweeney. Pete Sweeney. Pete Sweeney. Pete Sweeney.
All right, our guy from Arrowhead Pride, our Chiefs insider, Pete Sweeney, joins us on a Friday. I was just thinking about Club 610 later. I realized I think the only time we've gotten Pete to come in for Club 610 is when Dom Perignon is involved.
Oh, no, him and his girlfriend came one time.
That's true. But still your girlfriend, correct? Before it gets awkward on the air?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And from what I've seen from the historical Club 610 numbers, I'm really helping the ratio out. I was really helping the ratio out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Today, though, I think we'll actually do a good job of that.
I want to be clear. Today's ratio is our guests are 2 women to 1 male.
Who's coming in?
So Danny Welniak, former KCTV5 employee, current media relations director over at the KC Current. And we actually have somebody more. We have the president of the KC Current coming as well. We're going to talk to her about our pizza idea inside the stadium, Pete.
Yeah, Allison Howard, she's the president of KC Current. And we know that they just announced Joe's KC is going to be inside of the stadium. And I guess it's not the KC Current Stadium anymore. It's got a name now, right?
Yeah, obviously CPKC, the new name going
but
forward.
we want C&G Pizza, the very first ever one in the stadium.
That's a powerful lineup, and I like what you guys are doing. If you look in Major League Baseball, Citi Field just has a ton of restaurant options, and I think it really makes the stadium. So I think the more restaurants you can pack in there, the better. And you got the perfect people to pitch the idea to with a local audience here. I'm excited to tune in at 1 o'clock.
Can we get you in for a shift a month, Pete, at C&G Pizza if we can get this off the ground?
No, absolutely not. I love you guys, but my pizza slinging days are over.
Okay. Now, on Sunday afternoon, you're going to be out at Arrowhead, and I don't know, maybe you're going to be enjoying the spread before the game as well. You can let us know what the spread will be on Sunday. But McCole Hardman is even part of the picture on Sunday. Everybody's been asking. I think everybody's assuming he's active, but are you so sure that McCole Hardman will actually be part of this thing on Sunday?
I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100%. I think that if he shows that he's ready to go in these couple practices, and again, we get the brief look every day. He looked okay yesterday. I put a very brief video on my Twitter at PG Sween, and you kind of take a peek for yourself. But I think at the very least he can be a returner for this team. And I know in the past Dave Tope has just raved about what he can do as a returner. And so that's at the very least. And since the terminology is the same, and Matt Nagy said it's kind of like riding a bike, and I kind of project his role to be similar to what it was last time around, where you have these orchestrated touches within the offense, I'm tending to think he could be available for in that 5 to 10, 15 play range, just depending on how it goes. So I'm optimistic. I'm not 100% because I think they're going to try to make sure that he's good to go. But from what I've seen and what they're saying, it feels like there's a good chance that he could be ready to go on Sunday.
Pete, you seem like you differed from Alex and I, and you didn't think that the McCole Hardman signing said as much about Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney as we did. I guess why? Because at this point, they haven't performed, and they went back to the well with a player that they previously used, at least in a decent-sized role, a bigger role than they've had for either of those two players at any point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in conversations with people with the organization and kind of poking around and seeing what the means and why they decided to make this move. It wouldn't have happened, in my opinion, at this stage in my talks if Justin Watson hadn't had an injury. I think they're looking at Justin Watson. They haven't put him on IR, which is a good sign. So that means he's not going to miss 4 games. But I tend to think he'll miss the next 1 to 3 weeks. That means, and you need depth at the wide receiver position. That now you were looking at if a receiver goes down, you would only be down to 4, which is insane to say because now we've seen like 8 to 9 receivers on the active roster, and so I think they wanted that depth. I think they saw an opportunity to get him back in the return game. Certainly, he was effective in some of those gadget orchestrated touch type of plays. I'd be surprised if there's a significant change, even in snap counts in these next few weeks. And I know you guys have disagreed, but I'm tending to think it'll be the same. If anything, it'll be Rashee Rice getting more, as he should be, and maybe the other guys getting a little bit less. But there are 30 snaps to go around now with Watson out of the mix. And so I don't think you're going to see really a significant dip. I think Hardman is here to play a role. And the Chiefs said, why not, just considering it's for the veteran minimum. It was a cheap, easy way to get depth and somebody who knows the system and the terminology. That's all it was. I know Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney have not lived up to expectations, but I don't think there's a direct correlation with this particular acquisition.
Pete, but what about the 2025 draft and the comp picks that could be impacted by this trade?
Yeah. You know what? That's something that you really have to focus on right now. I'm sure there aren't any ways in the next 600 days to acquire picks if you want. Yeah. I did see some of that smoke. And I think you get, we used to call it Chiefs Twitter. I guess now it'd be Chiefs X. There's realistic Chiefs X and there's silly waste of time Chiefs X. And that day 3 late pick would clearly fall into the category of that for me.
We're talking to Pete Sweeney, our Chiefs insider from Arrowhead Pride. On the defensive side, I think a lot of people thought by now Frank Clark would officially be a Chief. Do you think everything's still in motion for that to happen, and it's just maybe they're waiting for some roster flexibility, or did something change in the last 24 hours?
Man, I don't know how I feel about this situation. I mean, the Chiefs are kind of saying, when they're asked about it, right, all these neutral comments. Nothing is like imminent. Nothing is like, okay, in the coming days, we're going to sign him. All of the smoke that it's come from national reporters, which usually is driven, 80, 90% of the time by the agent. So I think there's a lot of desire on the Frank side to come back to the Chiefs. But I think there's a question with where does he fit? Just considering, again, you just brought in McCole Hardman. There had to be a move for that. You're bringing back Charles Omenihu. You're already impacting and trying to figure out how it impacts a already very, very good defensive front. And so, for me, I just wonder how much the Chiefs are in a rush to get Frank back. Not to say that there isn't an interest and even a slight interest, but maybe it is one of those things where it's like, let's relax, let's kind of get you settled. Maybe we come back to this and kind of see how we do this weekend, that type of thing. I'm not as sure as everybody else that this is going to happen. I know that he's in Kansas City. I've seen the tweets. I've seen the Red Friday. I've seen the Twitter likes. I'm a little cautious here with how much desire there is to bring him back because, I mean, there is an element of if it's not broken, don't fix it. And I understand Frank's a legend. I don't know if the Chiefs are winning the championships they did without him. You got to really make decisions in the NFL of like what you're going to do, not what you did. That was a big change of the regime, that we saw from maybe even Dorsey to Veach, where they're not going to pay you necessarily for what you did. And I have my questions about how Frank fits. I know it would be a big boost to the fan base, but I'm just curious about that.
Pete, I know this upcoming opponent, the Chargers. We know them well. I find myself being a little too overconfident, I feel like, about this game this weekend because they're not playing good football. Justin Herbert has continued to not take another step forward in his development, and their defense still can't stop anyone. So versus, let's just say, the previous 2 years, how good is this Chargers team versus what we're used to seeing out of the Chargers the last couple of years?
Well, I think offensively they've been all right. They got Austin Eckler back, and Keenan Allen is playing as good a football as he's played in a really long time. And he in years has been a Chiefs killer. And so I think the offense is going to be okay. It's been the defense. Defense kind of been a little bit messier for LA. And I just think it's funny. We put an article up this morning at Arrowhead Pride previewing this matchup. If we would have talked about this game before the season, I mean, just the way that it was going, you would have thought, okay, it's going to be this really good Chiefs offense, and let's see what they can do against the Chargers defense. And Chargers offense is good, but, maybe the Chiefs defense can curb it. Where it's really the other way around. The powerhouses here have been the Chargers offense and how they're going to go against the Chiefs defense. I think they haven't had a great year, but you know what? This is desperation mode. It's crazy what the Chiefs do to these AFC West teams, just in the fact that they make these games almost must-win and playoff games in the beginning third of the season. And I think that's what this is for the Chargers. And so I think the Chiefs are going to have to play really good football to win this game. This isn't one of those games where, like we talked about maybe last week against the Denver Broncos, this is a good enough Chargers team to beat the Chiefs. So I just think that in mind going into it. has waned my confidence a little bit. Not to say that I don't think the Chiefs are going to win. I tend to think they will win this game. I just think it's going to be a much better game than last week.
Bigger picture in the AFC right now, heading into Week 7. We just saw one of the top teams potentially in the AFC, and certainly record-wise they are, the Jags, come up with a win last night. We were discussing earlier, they still don't feel like they're anywhere near the same level as maybe other teams we discuss who are sitting there right now with, 5 or in their case 6 wins. But Jacksonville seems like they're going to rack up a bunch of wins. And that Week 2 game the Chiefs had against the Jags seems like it might be awfully important later this year for the tiebreaker.
Yeah, their defense has been a pleasant surprise. I think it's been better than people are even giving it credit for. I know that we've looked around at other teams and their defenses, and certainly the one that they were playing last night. And you see the Chargers, or I should say the Jaguars, forcing all these turnovers. I had the Jaguars as my preseason AFC Invitational pick. I thought that the Chiefs would be playing the Jaguars. I actually had the Chiefs on the road going to Jacksonville for the AFC Championship. I had the Jacksonville with the AFC bye because I just thought they were a well-rounded team. And because of their division, like we saw a few years ago, if you guys remember, with the Titans winning the bye, I thought the Jaguars might be able to sneak in just because I think that the Chiefs have to play the Chargers and they have to play the Raiders, and you never know what can happen in that sense, where I kind of projected them to go 6-0 in their division without any kind of question there. And I think you're starting to come to see that come into fruition. It's all about Trevor Lawrence. If you guys watched that game last night, he has some plays where you're like, wow, this guy is a top 5 guy in the NFL. And then he kind of makes those young player boneheaded mistakes where you're like, he can spoil a game. So if Trevor Lawrence can start to look more like the Trevor Lawrence we saw last year after they went down all those touchdowns in the comeback, or when he's not making these silly mistakes, I think they can be right up there with the rest of the AFC. Miami is certainly somebody to watch as well, but I think this whole idea of it used to be the Chiefs and the Bills, and the Chiefs and the Bills, and now you add the Bengals, and now it's the Chiefs and the Bengals with the Bills. Like, there's a couple teams here that can really, I think, play spoiler to the party, and it's going to make for a very interesting middle, end of the year, and then certainly those like wild card rounds and the divisional rounds of the playoffs.
Pete, I did want to ask you a question that we're going to ask ourselves here again in a few minutes before we let you go. We talked about wide receivers and where they all fit. I'll give you Rashee Rice as the number 1 guy because I think that's going to be the answer for most people. How do these wide receivers finish in order of yardage 2 through 5 on the roster the rest of the way? MVS, Sky Moore, McCole Hardman, and Kadarius Toney.
Gosh, can you give me like a bag of marbles and I'll just pick it that way? I don't know. I wish I knew. I think the one that you look toward is probably Kadarius Toney, but there's always like the health caveat that is something you can't predict. If we're predicting it, we'd probably predict him to be injured more so than be healthy. It's tough to say that about a player, but I mean, it's just kind of what history tells you. And so I guess with that in mind, I would go Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I'm not completely giving up on Sky Moore, but I think as Rashee Rice gets more attention, maybe he can rack up somewhere like in that 300 to 400 range. So with injuries in mind, I think I would go Marquez, Guy, and McCole. Maybe feel at this stage kind of close. We'll see how long Watson misses, and then you have Justin Ross, who everybody's clamoring for. As you bring in McCole Hardman, who's going to get his orchestrated touches. I wonder if we're still about a year away from really seeing a lot of production from Justin Ross. I'm not out on Moore yet, but I am starting to have my doubts. I'm starting to kind of crinkle that eyebrow a little bit and wonder if maybe they might have missed on Moore.
Are you worried about being out of our guillotine league? You might want to pay attention this week, Pete. You are potentially on the chopping block according to the projections. Are you going to adjust that lineup a little bit?
Oh, I've been shaking up the lineup.
Joshua Dobbs is your starter this week?
J Dobbs. Yeah, we feel good about him. The name of my team is called Guillotine Sween, and Guillotine Sween. We have a lot of confidence in this young man. He's sneaky fast, can make all the throws. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Here. All we got to do is be second to last.
That's true.
And so that's what we're looking at.
All right, because you had Trevor Lawrence on the bench last night. He got you 18, so you need Joshua Dobbs to get more than 18. Otherwise, poor managerial decision.
Oh, gosh. Not my best move. Forgot to check that league.
See? I knew it.
And now we're going to hope for the best with Dobbs. We'll see what happens. So.
Okay. All right, Pete. Appreciate it. Good luck this week. That's Pete Sweeney, our Chiefs
See if we
insight.
can get a Whataburger at the Current as well. Can you ask that question too?
Sure.
We were thinking more local, but okay. Okay.
Oh, it's become local.
That's
It's
true.
become local.
That's true. They are locally
Pat has
owned.
2 hometowns now.
That's
Patrick
true.
has 2 hometowns now.
That's
All right,
very
bye.
true. So yeah, that's true. You got
We
the
gotta work
Mahomes.
on C&G
you got,
Pizza
you got
first,
the
but-
Mahomes angle already with the ownership group. Brittany and Patrick are part of the current ownership group now. And so yeah, maybe you can work that in. We'll talk to them in the 1 o'clock hour today. But yeah, we got to focus in on. We want to put in a C&G Pizza. Oh, cool. Do you guys already have locations? Never. No. Have you guys ever made pizza?
This
No.
would make it special. Our first location would be with you.
That's right.
A very special opportunity for you.
That's right.
Not only that, but we don't even have a staff, so we're
Don't worry
we're
about
in
that. We'll find
No
us-
recipes.
Wait, no, we do have a
no
staff.
equipment. No staff.
The three of
No
us have
logo.
the three of us have all agreed to a shift a month, and your wife offered to be the manager.
She's managing the restaurant.
So we
Yes.
have the
Perfect.
beginnings of a staff, and she has a history in pizza. She's worked in pizza.
History in pizza. I love how you phrase that though. A history in pizza.
She's got it in her resume.
Familiar.
Okay.
Familiar. Well, come on. We asked the text line to follow us on YouTube so that they can have an invite to Club 610. Are you telling me right now there aren't people who listen to this show that are willing to work at C&G Pizza? I think we could get a
Finding
staff.
employees is the least of our problem for the in-stadium C&G
The
Pizza.
money might be our biggest hurdle.
The money and just the fact we don't have a restaurant.
Gotta find
That might be a problem.
And we still haven't decided what style of pizza we want, but we can work on
Someone
that.
says they have a pizza paddle we can borrow. Well, we have to take it.
nice.
We can't borrow. We need.
I have a pizza paddle.
But this person's offering up theirs.
Well, that's the second one, but I have one.
We
so
have multiple paddles.
that
Okay.
was- so we're good.
Multiple pizza paddles. Yeah, because again, that's very low on the totem pole of issues that we have for this. You know, as long
If
as
you
it's
have a
not.
pizza oven we can borrow, then we're really talking.
Again, we can't borrow. We have to own it. we can't borrow. There's no
Well, we
borrowing.
can borrow it until we had the
We
cash
need
to own
it.
our own.
So we got to talk this out some more. Someone did tweet at us yesterday an image of starting prices for food trucks.
Honestly, not so bad.
We need about 3,600 $6.10 heroes to get us.
Okay.
3,600 $6.10 heroes to get us to the base level of a food truck, as in doing it as cheap as possible, according to the graphic that we were sent.
we can do this.
So maybe we can't get in the stadium. Maybe we can just get the food truck outside the stadium.
That would be popular, I
If we
think,
can't
for a
get
lot of
in,
people.
maybe we can get
Maybe we can get nearby.
we can get the C&G food truck outside of the new stadium.
This person says they'll help the show fund only if it's St. Louis style. I'm afraid, sir.
We're out.
We've
that's,
ruled that
that's
out.
done. Sorry, that's not happening.
I mean, if you were going to fund the whole thing, we might be able to figure this out. But if you're just willing to chip
we're
in,
out. We're out on the
We'll
Emos
give
pizza.
you an exclusive
decided-
pizza with your name.
we decided somewhere
it.
between traditional style, deep dish, or traditional style, like pan style, or like New York style.
Yeah, the one
pizza.
thing
We're really between those
The
three.
one thing we all agreed on. There's a lot of things we don't agree with, but it's it's not having Prevel cheese anywhere near our damn pizzas. Okay.
If we did 3,800 $6.10 heroes, do we do it like the Packers, where everybody has like some sort of like small penny level stake ownership in our business? Like we release some dividends.
Sure.
You know?
Fine.
You might get your $6.10 back eventually, that kind of
You
thing.
want to go with the employee-owned model, basically?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
so
employee-owned.
Okay, so that's what we can do. Actually, all our listeners are all partners in the restaurant. Perfect.
If you
Problem
can-
solved.
There you go.
That's not. I like the
All right.
strategy.
We'll work on that. All right, let's get to a little bit of college football. Drew's got his Saturday slate.
Yes, I do. And the music wants to play.
It's thinking about it. Maybe.
Okay. Well, you know what? It doesn't want to play. Maybe we'll still talk anyways. We got a lot of good games this weekend. Plenty of rivalry games, as a matter of fact, guys. Penn State, Ohio State, not as much of a rivalry as some of the others in the Big Ten. Tennessee and Alabama, that is a very big rivalry. The third weekend in October is what that one is called. And then you get other ones a little bit further down, Duke and Florida State, and then Utah, USC, some big ones. 4 ranked matchups, guys. The locals also in action. We'll get back to the ranked matchups in a second. But of the locals, which one? I mean, Missouri, I think you have a lot of confidence in, but who are you more confident in to have the better record? We know that Missouri's got it right now, but they've got a gauntlet of a schedule the rest of the way. Who do you think going forward is going to be?
Sorry, I found
Thank
Drew's
you.
college football bet.
Holy cow.
There it is.
Sorry, I wanted to get it for Drew, but I
thank you.
didn't know it was going to be that loud.
Yikes.
That's on me.
Yikes.
I was trying to help.
I appreciate it. To answer Drew's question,
Sorry.
where Missouri's at, they're sitting at 6-1, and you're asking, well, basically the question is, will K-State have a better record when it's all said and done. That's
Or KU, yeah.
I
Who
mean,
knows?
it's not going to be KU. It's not going to be KU. KU's got to get to 6. Yeah, I don't think they're getting to 8. And I think Missouri can get to 8. So really, you're asking who else can get to 8?
K-State can get to 8,
That's
but
what
the
I'm
way
saying.
that they're playing right now doesn't give me a lot
They
of
have
confidence
4.
they will.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Get
Is
to
they,
8, I'll take Missouri, I guess, over the other 2.
They need 4 more to get there. And Missouri is 2 away. Don't you guys think Missouri's at least getting 8 wins now based off of how they're performing?
Yes.
And
They
they're going to win
should.
this weekend. All right, they're going to beat South Carolina.
So then they only
in
get to 1 more
Columbia.
to get to 8.
Kentucky.
That gets them to 7. Kentucky's on the schedule. Georgia is on the schedule still. I think Missouri gets to 8 at least. And I think it would be a pretty tall task for KU to get to 8. And K-State getting to 8.
They have a cake schedule
is
too
not
the rest
out
of
of
the
the
way.
question, but I don't think they're getting more than 8. So I'll also go with Missouri to answer your question.
All right. Also, in other news, I know that we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Michigan under investigation for looking at other people's games or whatever. There's a staffer who's at the center of this.
Okay.
According to a story on ESPN, there's a staffer that has gone to other games and has scouted the team essentially and watched from the stands. Now, I know that I think there's certain lines you don't cross. However, couldn't anybody technically do this? If you're a fan or an alum and you went to, you're like, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to scout out the
but if you
opponent.
work for a
Yes.
team, I think that's where you draw the line. If you can't have a camcorder in the stands,
Correct.
shooting the Zabruta film, you can't just be like kicking it.
Well, that's the thing
Getting
is,
video.
I wonder what the exact investigation will detail. Like, is this guy just watching the games and is literally paying attention to the sidelines and what plays they run and writing them down, not even necessarily recording them? I mean, what detail did they go into?
I think if it's writing it down, I think it's fair game. Honest to God. You're doing this thing on the sideline. If you're smart enough to send a staffer, and I understand that there are forward scouting rules in college for financial reasons.
Yeah.
I have way less of a problem with it for whatever reason, Gold, if you wrote it down. I don't know
And
why, because
yeah.
then you can't break
Yeah.
it down hour after hour after hour. You're counting on one man's observations for 3 hours. To me, that's just doing a little bit of homework. I know you can't normally see their sideline view, but I also understand that college football is trying to keep it equitable. That's why they don't want anybody forward scouting in that scenario.
Don't we all know this is going to turn out? Right. This staffer is going to be the guy that gets in trouble.
Oh, he's the fall
But
guy?
not-
yeah,
the
yeah,
fall
he's the
guy.
Chris Carter fall guy?
He's
Yes.
going to be the fall guy. Nothing's happening to Harbaugh because of this. And he's got other problems to worry about. But this one, this staffer is going to be the guy. They're going to say, we had no idea. They're going to claim, they're going to screw this guy over. They're going to say he was a rogue staffer. They had no idea.
We just thought he
had
was a really good scout.
We had no clue he
Yeah.
was doing this. We would never have told him to do this. And then he's going to get fired.
It was also
this
in-
poor guy is going to get screwed.
It was also interesting, and I couldn't find the audio on it, but I do remember when they played Rutgers, they were interviewing Greg Schiano at halftime, and he said something along the lines of, "Yeah, there's some sketchy stuff going on out there. We're struggling a little bit, but there's some stuff going on that I'm really not going to mention." Maybe he knew that somehow Michigan knew their signs or some of the
Advanced
calling
scouting
there as well.
happens all the time.
Yes.
So I just
Agreed.
you know.
Also, final thing, real quick, Brock Bowers, no timetable according to Kirby Smart on his return.
Sit
of
out the rest of the
ankle-
year and be a
Yeah,
top 10
don't- yeah,
pick.
do
If
not
you're
play.
Brock Bowers, just stop, right? Just don't play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the ankle injury obviously bad enough that he has no timetable yet. I mean, at that point, you're maybe a lock to be a top 5 pick as a tight end, which is pretty nuts, anyways.
You want to be running at the combine looking like you never missed a single snap in college football. That has got to be his only priority right now. Because as it sits, he was scheduled to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Ankle doesn't look so good in April. Things might be a little bit different. That's why you got to just shut it down.
That's the weekend college football slate from Drew here on Cody and Gold. Up next, we get to the Chiefs Red Half Hour and how we see the receivers going the rest of the way. Plus, thinking of pizza, we'll give you a chance at a large pizza from our friends over at the other place.
Cody and Gold brought
Coming up in 15 minutes or so, we will give you a chance at a large pizza on a Red Friday, thanks to our friends over at The Other Place. A lot of pizza discussion today. But
This is maybe the biggest day in C&G pizza history. Second to the one when you probably realized after we were talking about getting the spot next to Kelly's before Guy's Deli took it over. And I think for a second, you and Nick probably realized I was getting kind of serious. I was doing legitimate research. I was reaching out to the actual proprietor of said building, trying to figure out how to get C&G started. This is the biggest day since then, man. We can talk to an actual person who's in charge of the entire KC Current, and we can talk to them about what their current pizza needs are or plan for at the stadium. You think they already got a pizza place?
my guess is they already have some ideas. Yes.
Well, maybe we can steer them in a different direction. Well, how many heroes did we decide we needed? 3,800? That's a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. I'm not sure that many people listen to this show. I'm going to be honest with you. Do you think there are that many people that listen to this show?
Yes.
I have no idea. By the way, that's for the low end of that estimate. Really, we need more like 5,000 to 6,000 heroes.
913-586-7610, the Jay Southland Tow Service text line. Well, let's get back into the Chiefs a little bit here, though, because we were talking with Pete about the wide receiver room, right, and the direction that it's headed. And now you're trying to figure out what's the rest of the wide receiver room going to look like, receiving yardage based off of, let's X out Justin Watson for this conversation. He's hurt right now. Let's go ahead and cross off Travis Kelce. He's a tight end, not a wide receiver for this conversation. Who's leading the team the rest of the way in receiving? And as you said,
this has been a lot harder than I was planning on it being.
Everybody knows that probably going to answer Rashee Rice, as you said, for the first. But how do you rank it out after that? Because for me, yeah, Rice would be at the top of the list of receiving yards, most to least, the rest of the way. Rice goes one based off of what we've seen, based off of what we think will be a continued role in this offense. Then after that, I still put Kadarius Toney number 2 on this because I still think, based on how they were discussing him in the offseason, even if the production clearly has not been there whatsoever, I still think in their mind there's something there. I'll put Toney 2 the rest of the way. Then MVS. He's getting so many snaps, even though he's not doing anything right now. He's getting so many snaps. He had 700 yards a year ago. At some point, if they're going to keep giving him playing time, he's not going to end up with 200 yards. He's going to have more than that the rest of the way. Then I'll go McCole Hardman, and I'll put, for this conversation, Sky last on that. Now, I don't think anybody's getting 1,000 yards or anything, but
Sky, boy,
I'll go ahead and go Rice, Toney, MVS, McCole, Sky.
Sky has really fallen down this list because I am also very tempted to put Sky Moore dead last. I think, honestly, it's hard not to make an argument for almost all of them to be dead last. I would rank it him last, but I would have Toney second to last and MVS second only because of the targets right now. The biggest hang-up I have on Toney is he's not producing. So you can look at it from this perspective. He's also not producing just like the other two guys. But Sky Moore and MVS aren't producing with all the opportunity in the world. They're getting more than their fair share of snaps. They're getting more than their fair share time on the field. They're getting chances. I could still, in my brain, talk myself into the idea that part of Kadarius Toney's issues, and they'll never admit this, is that he's never quite been fully healthy. And he was coming back from a surgery in the offseason. He did not get any training camp. When he got on the field to start the season, he was incredibly limited. He had less than 10 snaps. And they've never been able to fully unlock him, and maybe they're just saving him like the Jerick McKinnon type, and they're getting ready to unleash him on the league. But man, does that take some optimism, and I just don't think I'm there yet. To me right now, Rashee Rice is clearly number 1. He's going to lead this team in receiving the rest of the way. I put MVS at 2, and then I put McCole 3rd. I know Pete and I disagree on this because he's just saying, hey, if Justin Watson didn't get hurt, but also part of that logic that people inside the Chiefs organization are probably telling him tells you about the receivers, if it makes sense. He's like, well, I mean,
they're counting on Watson that much,
once
yeah.
Justin Watson went down, we didn't have a choice. Okay? That in itself is very telling. That tells you the whole story because you shouldn't feel that way about Justin Watson. You should have felt that if he went down, cool, Rashee Rice and Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney and MVS are all there to pick up the distance. You shouldn't be worried about wide receiver 5 or 6 down the
Yeah,
roster
you and
from
I,
a production standpoint. It's telling in its own right.
Yeah, you and I have been in agreement on that, where it's just, to me, you're not making that trade if things were going well with the Kadarius Toney Sky Moore experiment, whatever you want to call it, plan heading into this season. Doesn't mean that things can't improve for Sky Moore. Of course they can. Does it mean things can improve for Kadarius Toney and MVS? Of course they can.
I assume it's going to improve for somebody.
I mean, but by the way, it kind of has to, based off of the snaps. Like I don't know if MVS can continue getting the number of snaps he has and still end up with like 200 yards receiving. You know what I mean? Like
it's untenable. At some point, he either has to get more yardage or get less snaps.
Or less snaps, exactly. So that's why I would put him still in the conversation for ranking out how we see this going. What about you, Drew? Because Cody and I both have Rice at the top. I'm assuming you do. But then after that, we're a little bit different. I have Toney much higher than Cody does.
Yeah, I'm with you a little bit more, Gold, I think, than Cody. I've got Rice, then Toney. Then I would say McCole,
I like that
MVS,
nobody has the same answer.
And then Sky last.
Except for, wow, you know what? I take it back. The three of us do have the same two answers. Rice first, Sky last. Is there no one left on the Sky bandwagon? It's hard not to, like, this is the Richie James stock situation that I asked you after like 2 or 3 weeks. It's hard not to want to sell your Sky Moore stock right now. Like, maybe there's still some hidden potential in there. I wouldn't write off the man's career, but I mean, man.
The conversation we're having is leading the team in most receiving yards the rest of the way, and the likelihood that they lead the team in receiving the rest of the season. Yeah, Sky, I don't think that's wrong whatsoever. Do I think that already we should 100% say he's a bust? No, I don't think that's fair. Not even a full year and a half into his NFL career. He's in year 2 of a rookie contract. He's trending in that direction heavily. And it's got to change. And it's got to change. But I don't think you can 100% declare that he's a bust at this point. Not yet, but it's not trending in a direction you want to see at all.
That's why I think I've got McCole over MVS. I think that, one, the partnership from before, if he's fully healthy and ready to go, the system is very similar to what it has been before. I feel like he's going to get, looking forward, more overall touches. I mean, MVS, as you guys just said, he's had a bevy of opportunities and just hasn't been producing at all along with Sky. That's why I think McCole is that third option.
I might be reading too much into McCole's previous production because I sent out that stat and I think it was, at the time, it really resonated with me because he's averaging more yards per game than, anybody currently on the Chiefs roster that isn't Rashee Rice. It's kind of hard to imagine that he won't have some sort of production level near 30 yards a game. Right now, nobody else is really sniffing that. I mean, that's a 7 to 8, 10-yard difference between what Sky Moore is getting right now. That's a 15-yard difference for an MVS is getting right now. And Moore and Toney's below both of those guys. It's at some point, I assume and like the text line's asking, hey, how do I get Justin Ross more touches? The answer is, if the next couple of weeks keep going like this, you probably won't be asking much longer. You'll probably start seeing
I don't know, man.
What I want from Ross is red zone. What I want from McCole is red zone. If they keep running the guys out for the same number of routes, but they find a way to score because they put Ross and McCole Hardman down there, then everyone's doing their job, and I don't care so much about the in total yardage game.
Yeah, it's red zone for Ross. I mean, I don't think we're not ever going to get to a point at the end of the season where Justin Ross is out snapping Sky Moore. That's not this guy. That's just not. That's just not happening. You're dreaming if that's the situation. Can he help this team in the red zone? When we were discussing him during camp and mentioning how, of course, social media was acting like he was going to be a Hall of Famer, at least use him in the red zone. So I have no problem with that whatsoever. But one catch that had everybody talking so far this season is really all you can say. So about Justin Ross and his performance.
It was really interesting last week. Like, I feel like that game against It was before the Denver game. That was the game that Ross had that good catch and everything like that. The next game, he only had one. I think he had one catch or one target and barely played any snaps. So
he's just not a big part of their plan. He's the same level as, I'm trying to think about wide receivers in the past that were.
He's just there more than anything else. If you really need him or if a guy needs a break, sure, we'll throw Justin in there for a play or two. Take him out.
I still think it's very telling. Like, it's just telling that you go after this wide receiver. I don't think this is an easy task, by the way. I think if we asked Speck this same question and Carrington and Bob and Josh and the first 10 people we encountered on the street, you'd probably get different orders of this. You just would, because it's not an easy thing to predict right now for the Chiefs. All we're really asking is, can they have one more guy step up that is not Rashee Rice? That's legitimately would calm a lot of the waters on a huge portion of this. We've been out of, we've been out of the Taylor Swift watch for a little bit.
Oh, we're watching. We just haven't discussed it on the show. We're always watching.
She's been showing up to games. You had asked me, you're like, hey, when do you think it'll be a big deal that she's not at games? I was like, or is she at games? I was like, probably about the end of the year. Still going to be a very big deal for every game she attends the rest of the way. I saw the story yesterday from Entertainment Tonight that said that he was planning on traveling abroad to support it, that the two of them are both career-oriented, like to support each other in their career, and show support for each other's career. To this point, let's be honest, it's been a bit lopsided. Travis Kelce's been to a single Taylor Swift concert in which he was just there as a fan, presumably, and she's been to now multiple NFL games. There's reports that he is willing to travel abroad in order to support her on her international part of the tour. Is Travis going to go from Germany to Buenos Aires? Is he going to spend the bye week in a different foreign country? At what point does Travis join on the international tour? Also, he's buying new houses. He's willing to travel abroad. This relationship is very serious. I never understand this notion.
It's definitely serious, Philly. It's definitely serious. I was just laughing at you. Is he going to go on an international trip with her?
We're going to follow him.
It's just funny to me.
That's a big trip. That's not traveling from New York to Kansas City.
Yeah, it sounds
Germany
like he's
to
going.
Argentina.
It sounds like he's going to support her. It sounds like the relationship continues to go very, very well. Some of the quotes from the publication are that Travis and Taylor are all in. The two are very into each other, are enjoying their time together, but are also planning for the future. And as you said, Taylor starts her international tour in November. Travis is planning to be there to spend time with her. And yeah, there's some travel and schedule issues, but after Argentina, Taylor heads to Brazil for 3 nights, although Travis would need to be back in KC, right? The team's playing the Eagles on November 20th.
Yes.
But then Taylor's in Sao Paulo or whatever from November 24th through the 26th. The Chiefs are in Las Vegas on the 26th. So he can go on the there's not a ton of dates where he can join her on the international tour while he's in season. He's probably going to have to wait till after February, except for what you brought up, maybe the Germany week. But glad to see things are going well. And all the fake crap was ludicrous to begin with. But yeah, this is Travis's new life. He knows, right?
Just living in Tokyo for a week, hanging out with her in the offseason?
This is going to be your new life, though. Like every detail, whether it was the $6 million mansion or whatever in Leawood that was purchased, right? That everybody's well aware of now. Even though it's more secluded, everybody knows about it.
Yeah, but at least it's got like a security guard. You can't just like roll up to his place like before. Someone's like, hey, man, this is annoying that we're all up in their business. I'm like, I don't necessarily disagree. I don't think I need to know where Travis is.
This is just reality of when you're dating Taylor Swift, though.
I also think that the reciprocation is probably important at some point in this. She is showing up to the Bears games and like she's showing up to bad football games. He should probably go to some international stuff. How does this work? When you are a VIP member of like going to Taylor Swift, do you sit in those same like booths and boxes that like guys like Aaron Rodgers and these other celebrities are at? Or do you get an even more exclusive spot at the concert? You going to be like backstage? If you're Travis, what's your view of the concert?
Well, I mean, if he wanted,
in like Tokyo,
if he wanted to be backstage, I'm sure. But also, he probably wants to let her do her thing.
So they show her at the booth.
Like she's not in the locker. She's not outside the locker room before the Chiefs game. She's there after the game. True. So the concert, my guess is let her do her thing.
And you go sit in the private area?
Uh-huh.
I could see him for some of those concerts being in the area, actually at the hanging out while the concert's going on, or I could also see him just hanging out backstage, have some dinner back there and then just relax.
Will Travis Kelce ever end up on a stage?
Yes.
Of course.
Will Travis Kelce end up on stage?
At some point, but not early. This is like not this year, though.
Oh, you're saying not
if they're still together on another tour, I don't think so. Plus, it's an international tour. Like, with all due respect to Travis Kelce, I don't think in Tokyo, Travis Kelce walking out on stage is going to be as big of a deal as if it was in the U.S.
I think at some stop, there's going to be fans yelling, Travis. It's going to happen. It is going to happen.
Just step back for a half second, can we? Because you know how absurd all this is, though? Just in general. Like, it just is. This is why, this is from Entertainment Tonight. My sisters and my mom would watch this Entertainment Tonight. It's on weeknights, 6:30 to 7. Hated the show. Drove me crazy because they would hated it.
My family never watched
I hate the tabloid crap. It really drives me crazy if you want to know the truth. Like growing up, it would be on TV, and they would always start the show, and it'd just be like, plus we have the latest details on so-and-so's new wedding this weekend or whatever. We have the behind-the-scenes exclusive. It's like, who gives a bleep?
So are your sisters locked into this Travis Kelce?
Everybody's.
We're
locked into this. I'm talking about the other stuff. I'm talking about the other stuff, though. Like these Entertainment Tonight shows are absolutely horrific. They're terrible.
But
now he's featured on them.
Dick's
every
Sporting
single one of
Goods is as well, guys. In Indianapolis, I texted you this. My mom, who works at Dick's Sporting Goods in Indy, sent me a picture of boxes that they were getting. Karma is my tight end shirts are being sold in Indianapolis.
Because Breaking Tea makes those, and
Yes.
they, of course, have a deal with Dick's or whatever to sell them. So, yeah, I'm not surprised.
It's everywhere.
Taylor Swift fans are everywhere, and therefore they're Travis Kelce fans now.
There's so many stories in the last calendar year I was not anticipating covering, you know? This one is included in that category.
Text line, my goodness.
Well, what's the text line saying?
Text that we can't read on the air, Cody. That's what it's saying.
Oh, that's not great. What's wrong with you people?
913-586-7610.
That's not what we're talking about here. The 913 does say he's in the middle of the season. I'm sure she understands. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that.
he's working still. He's got to work. Now, bye week
gets a brief
stuff's
break in her
different.
work.
Bye week's a little bit different, but he's got to work until after February. Again, he's got a Super Bowl to play in at some point
I
this
think
year.
he's going to Argentina. I think he's going to spend those first couple of days in the bye week catching a shell
Okay.
and then flying back.
All right, that's fine.
Well, if you look at South America too, in terms of timeline, it's not too off of. I mean, if you go to Tokyo, you're probably in a completely different day. I think actually, compared to
Well, yeah,
where
Tokyo,
the US
she
is
can't.
at. That
That's
would be
the Super
yeah,
Bowl.
Yeah,
Travis busy. Okay, busy.
that would never
Super
happen.
Bowl's going on right then.
No, whatever the stop is after that. Have we looked at what the stop is after that?
No. After the season, I don't think anybody's worried. He can do whatever the hell he wants after the season.
Well, I assume he'll be all over the tour.
I mean, I don't think he's going to go to every single tour stop.
No, but I could see him like spending a week at one of the places
Maybe
where she's
so.
doing like
Sure.
four
Yeah.
stops and then going to the
Like,
next
I
stop.
don't
you know?
think he's spending the 4 months after the season on every single tour stop across the world.
The text line is asking, have we decided which day I'm going to be slinging shirts outside? Someday next week.
Yeah, it'll be like Thursday or Friday next week. We're not sure yet.
Yeah.
But those will be the new Taylor Swift shirts next Thursday or Friday. They'll be $13. We'll have more details next week. But yeah, it's going to be Thursday or Friday.
Any chance that Travis Kelce will be turning on the lights at the Plaza lighting ceremony with Taylor Swift?
She's not going to do the Plaza Lights. It's a security nightmare. Just a nightmare. Just a nightmare. Absolutely not. Just a complete nightmare, I would think. Someone says, you think they're going to the Super Bowl? Have you seen this offense? I hope that's sarcastic text.
So they are 5-1.
Yeah, they're 5-1. They have the number 2 defense in football. If you think that right now they're incapable of winning the Super Bowl, then just try to sit back and enjoy the ride a little bit more. Is all I would say.
Somebody's asking payment for the shirts next week. Same thing as last time, cash or Venmo.
I don't know what Cody.
Other
Hey,
forms.
I don't know what you can bribe Cody with. That's between you and him. I don't know.
Same setup as last time. We're going to be sitting down there, and it's like some fans are sick of it. Yeah, I probably believe that.
Yeah, oh,
Look,
definitely.
we've cooled down our coverage of it. I can't completely ignore it. We've toned down our coverage, Gold. We're good.
Absolutely.
We're in great shape. But I'm not, we can go back to naming Disney songs, and Drew can find something else from 1913 if you want.
Yeah, that's right.
Why you chose the oldest songs that Disney has ever released? You chose Aristocats. How come none of you chose anything from
But
the 80s or
the
90s?
Aristocats song is a
2000s.
classic, though.
Little cat's the only cat who knows how to swing.
That's what Dick long Dick stuff like that.
Come on.
It's a good song.
The old
Everybody wants to be a cat, man.
the old Disney movies are the great ones, where TV was just where they were just getting into animation and all that other stuff. They were like Bambi.
Disagree.
You got what you got, and it was amazing.
Well, Bambi just sucks.
Yes, I do agree. That being
just
said, the movie's not good.
Yeah, have they done? Or did they make a live action one recently? Bambi.
I think they need to stop with the live action ones. You're trying.
Really?
You're getting.
I don't have an issue with that. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, but I feel like it ruins the.
I haven't watched any.
It ruins the nostalgia because it's just not the
For
same.
us, but they're trying to get the next
They're
generation.
trying to get my kid to watch. My kid's seen the new Little Mermaid. I don't think she's ever seen the old Little Mermaid. Right?
And
She has no nostalgia. I speaking real quick on that. I did receive a message roughly 4 a.m. this morning. The simple text that said, thanks to what you said on the air yesterday. Simple text that said, I heard that you were looking for the video of you as the Little Mermaid in high school. That was the entirety of the text.
Yeah.
Middle of the night. Could not have been more middle, like 4 a.m.
Others have reached out to me as well about this.
Excuse me? It doesn't exist. What would it have even been shot? Who's
Others
holding on
heard
this video
my-
for 20 years?
Others heard my call to action yesterday
No one's finding it.
when you brought up that you once were in a talent show wearing a purple bra, and I said I need video of this. And I said, if you have video and you went to Winnetonka High School, please reach out to me. Sounds like they reached out to you as well, but we're efforting the video. It's in
There's got to be a
progress
clip
right now.
somewhere. In
It's in progress.
some archives.
It's more than 20. It would require some parent probably who recorded their kid proudly during that time, holding on to the entirety of that video. I feel like there's almost no way. Somebody informed me that they believe, I told you I wasn't sure what year of high school it was. Someone informed me that they believe it was my sophomore year of high school. It would have been 2001.
Even better. All right. So I think people have it, though. People are working on it for us behind the scenes. They heard the call to action. It might be revealed one day. I'll let you know the minute I see the video. I'll let you know. I have not seen the video
yet.
yet.
Keep it a secret.
I'll let you know the minute I see the video. We'll have an unveiling. We can have a premiere watch party if you want.
Watch party.
Coming up next, though.
We're going to go to a movie theater to watch this 2-minute performance.
Let's give you a chance right now, though, some pizza. How about that from our friends over at the other place? What caller should we make Drew work?
13. Taylor Swift, you know?
Okay, caller 13 to 913-586-7610. 913-586-7610. Caller 13 getting hooked up with a large pizza from our friends at the other place. Up next, though, as I said, we'll get to what's trending and the opportunity Sunday presents for the Chiefs and the Chargers.
Cody and Gold, brought to you. topics trending.
Well, number one on what's trending, it's a Red Friday in Kansas City. Chiefs getting set to take on the Chargers. We'll keep an eye on what Andy Reid has to say in the 1 o'clock hour today. We do know that according to Pete Sweeney and those that are at practice right now, everyone but Justin Watson expected to practice. Remember, Watson did not practice yesterday. And no surprise here. I mean, Justin Watson's not playing on Sunday. Nobody expected that as he deals with that elbow injury. We'll find out for sure if McCole Hardman's going to be active maybe later on today and then ultimately on Sunday. But good news, this is a healthy Chiefs team. I don't want to jinx them at all, but for heading into a Week 7, people are going to hate me when an injury happens on Sunday now, but for Week 7 of the season, 5-1 football team, they are about as healthy as you can be at this point of an NFL season. Compare it to what the Chargers are dealing with, and a lot of teams are.
Yeah, tons. Some are trying to get their starters back. Obviously, the Lions lose Montgomery for the week. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but still, I could feel worse about the Chiefs' injury situation. Next up on What's Trending, college football this weekend. KU's on a bye week, so they'll take a breather. Well, hopefully that'll get Daniels healthy, at least on their end.
Man.
MU will take on South Carolina at 2:30 kickoff, and K-State at TCU. They got a night game, 6 p.m. for them. Both K-State and MU favored in those matchups, I think, as last I looked.
I think that's in Manhattan even, actually. Yeah. I think it's their Harley Day, where they have all, like, as loud as possible. They have Harley Davidsons. They go around the stadium.
Yeah.
It's their big Harley Day thing they do out there. Right up Drew's alley. Drew's a big Harley guy.
Would I look, do you think I'd look really stupid on a motorcycle?
You would look way more in your element than I would.
You sure?
Yes.
You have a tattoo.
You've got multiple tattoos.
You have 4 tattoos. What did you
That
say,
doesn't-
6? I don't remember what you said.
I don't have a skull. I don't have
It's pretty
wings.
crazy. Drew already agreed if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, he'll get a Chiefs tattoo. So that was pretty cool.
I did not agree on
Could
that.
you imagine?
There are certain things that I
Don't
sure
agree
will
on
not do.
tattoos for
Yes, that is
on-air
never-
bets.
Yes.
Yeah, next up on What's Trending, MLB postseason continues. We got some series now. How about the Rangers and Astros tied up at 2 games apiece? That's a little after 4 o'clock today between the Astros and Rangers. And then later on this evening, the Diamondbacks got on the board in the series. They're hosting the Phillies this evening. Still a 2-1 lead, but now we know we're at least getting to Game 6 in the AL side, and things are trending towards being a lot more interesting in both series after last night.
Right now, Philadelphia is still the favorite to win the World Series because they hold that 2-1 advantage. The Astros currently now at number 2 because they've won back-to-back games. Diamondbacks still kind of a long shot. I think they're 9 or 10-1 still at last look for a chance of the World Series. Phillies look really good. Diamondbacks got them last night. That was one of the worst umpired games of the season. Like, for instance, the worst umpire in the entire year this year, Angel Hernandez, not shocking, got 90%-ish of his calls right behind the plate. Last night, 88%. So worse than Angel Hernandez's average game last night is what you got in that Phillies game. So not exactly what you're looking for. Next up on What's Trending for fantasy purposes, and I guess just general NFL purposes, Lions expecting to get Jahmyr Gibbs back against the Ravens, according to multiple reports, especially because David Montgomery is obviously going to be out this week. But as of yesterday, they haven't practiced yet today, West Coast time. McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel still not practicing for the 49ers. Feels like their availability for Monday Night Football this week is certainly in question.
Today's the big day because remember, since they're playing Monday, this is almost like the practice. This is like the practice that really matters, and so this will probably give us some insight whether or not McCaffrey actually would be available for Monday Night Football, as you said, against the Minnesota Vikings. Lastly, on What's Trending, really excited. Next Friday, got a cool event going on. Next Friday afternoon, going to be out at the Tanner's, right by KU Med, right? Tanner's Bar and Grill, 3900 Rainbow Boulevard. We know KCK and Kansas in general, the only place that you can bet. KCK is always the better bet when it comes to sports betting. You can't do it on the Missouri side. A lot of you come right across the state line and end up betting in Kansas City, Kansas for the most part. So I'll be out there next Friday from 3 to 5 at the Tanner's Bar and Grill with Visit KCK, betinKCK.com. We're giving away some Red Friday sports betting t-shirts. Also, thinking of Kansas State, we're giving away a pair of tickets to see the Wildcats take on Baylor. That game's coming up a little bit later on in November. So come on out next Friday afternoon from 3 to 5 at the Tanner's location there right by KU Med. That is What's Trending here on Cody and Gold. A reminder coming up today, 1 o'clock hour, Club 610. We got a couple special guests stopping by. First of all, we got our old intern, JT, who's now a part-timer, who's really wants to participate in Club 610.
So he's coming.
He's done a great job. We got JT coming in. We also have Danny Welniak. A lot of you know her, obviously, from her days at Channel 5, but she's now one of the media coordinators for the Kansas City Current. And we will also, we think, I don't know if it's 100% confirmed.
100% confirmed.
Okay. So we will have the team president from the KC Current
Allison Howard
in
going to join us
studio
as well.
as well.
We're getting
So
C&G Pizza off the ground
it's
today.
presented by...
Off the ground today.
Can we agree one thing as a show before they get in studio at 1 o'clock? Don't have that as the very first conversation we have when they walk in.
Let's get to know each other.
Yeah, I think we need okay. Just as long
How
as we're
about
on,
like after that first break?
maybe, yeah. I was thinking, let's not have that as the first topic we discuss with them. We gotta explain things. We need to talk a little bit what they got going on. We'll obviously talk about what we're drinking today. Which again, what's the cocktail that we got from Rieger today?
A New York sour.
Okay.
So whiskey, lemon juice, simple syrup, and it's got a red wine floater on top. So like you'll see, like it's kind of a two-tone drink.
All right.
So I'm looking forward to it.
That's gonna be good,
I've
man.
had sour drinks before. I like whiskey sour and all those things. I haven't had this particular one, so I'm interested to see exactly how it turns out. What are you looking for? You looking over here to see?
I was looking at our glassware today. You know.
Well, I have 5 glasses in there. I got another one, 6th in there. I was
Okay.
thinking there's 3 of us and 3 people coming in. That's 6. But I haven't hung out with Danny when last check. I'm not sure Danny when I drinks.
Okay.
She's happy to come hang out in the club, but I'm not
Perfect.
sure if she drinks. So I didn't want to make her a drink just in case.
I got you. So we'll do that coming up at 1 o'clock today on a Red Friday. Red Fridays are brought to you by Calm Care. Call or text 988 for 24/7 mental health support. Sunday afternoon, Chiefs, Chargers, and I think so much has been made of the Chargers make or break game for them, right? I mean, they lose, this divisional race is over. They win, it at least keeps them alive. Heck, if the Chargers lose, it really starts impacting just making the postseason even as a wild card team in the AFC.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if you're the Chiefs, as you pointed out a little bit, Cody, massive, bigger picture, number 1 seed type of ramifications as well.
I just don't like that it opens up the possibilities of making your life a lot harder versus putting 1 check mark in the checkbox. We know what this works for the Chiefs. They've got 4 check marks every year. Win the division, be the number 1 seed in the AFC, win the AFC in the playoffs, and win the Super Bowl. That's the 4 things on the Chiefs checklist every single year. And you can't do one without checking off the other. This Sunday, you can just check off one. You can get the first thing out of the way. You can win your division this Sunday. And you're like, seems early. It is early, but it is definitely in play. They beat 3.5 games up on the Chargers, who are definitively the second most talented team in the division. Okay, they just are. They're the second most talented team in the division. You would bury the Chargers at 2-4. That would put them as the 3rd worst record in the AFC. They'd be tied with the Titans, I guess, depending on whatever the hell they do. And the Patriots and the Broncos would be the only 2 teams worse than you. That's it. So just to get to the postseason, not win the division, just to get to the postseason, they'd have to leapfrog 7 or 8 teams. They can win the division this weekend, and it's important. I think we've been putting this a lot on the Chargers because both teams should be feeling pressure. I want the Chiefs to treat this game urgently, I think is the point I'm trying to make here. Because if they let the Chargers be the more urgent team, then the Chargers come in here and be like, we got to save our damn season. We are 2-3. If we go 3-3, we're good. 3-3 and a win against the Chiefs and only a game back, and we beat them in their building, we're fine.
It changes the whole view.
We're fine. We'll be okay. We're going to make this thing work. You can bury them. You can put them behind. And honestly, I don't like opening the door for the rest of these teams. Because if you lose a game, then all of a sudden you have the same record as, the very least, you have the same record as the Jags, who have already won this week. You might have a worse record than Miami, but at best the same record, same thing. And then the Ravens and the Bills would be the same team, and the Steelers would all be the same in the loss column, depending on what they do in their games as well. You're just bringing everybody back into the AFC. Win the game, and only one team can have the same record as you as Miami. You take them on in a few weeks. It just feels like a control your own destiny situation. For an early game, it just feels like it's a big swing one way or the other.
The margin of error is far greater if you're able to win on Sunday because it just gives you some wiggle room. I'm thinking it more, and my mind has gone kind of more towards the number 1 seed. Like maybe it's too early for everybody to get there.
You think these AFC games matter?
That's where I'm at. It's AFC record matters. Division is going to take care of itself, but it still is a AFC game, of course, on top of it. And so it's nobody questioned and nobody thought the Chiefs weren't going to win the division this year, right? We take it for granted, but still, nobody thought they weren't going to win it.
No.
So the conversation really every year now in Kansas City, as spoiled as it is about whether or not they're going to put together a season good enough at first to get the bye and then put yourself in a position to host your 6th straight AFC title game, which is absolutely absurd. 5 was absurd, 4 was absurd, 6 is just out of this world. That puts you in a better position. So as much as it's about the division, I agree with you. It gives you some wiggle room because you do have a team down in Jacksonville. While maybe you don't consider them a true threat, and that's fair.
They're there.
But they are going to rack up a bunch of wins to put themselves in position to be a number 1 seed. Fortunately for the Chiefs, they have the tiebreaker. So the Jags got to win one more game than you do. That's how massive the week 2 win, was against Jacksonville. But yeah, this has ramifications for the entire AFC picture. If you're the Bills, if you're Cincinnati, any of these, Miami, you're obviously hoping the Chargers win this game on Sunday as well.
Well, per usual, the Chargers are not a bad team. They're just a team who cannot win in the most critical moments. They have a net point of 3. They are positive in the 3 win column, which means every single game is like a point, and they've been losing more of the games and they win by a point. So I do anticipate this game coming down to the absolute wire. Similar to the last cheat, when Jalen Watson's got to get a pick 6 in order to put them away, right? Sometimes those things happen. It's fine for this game to be close. I'm not kind of anticipating a big swing one way or the other on that. I do predict the Chiefs to win this game as we get later on in the show, but it's just it has big implications for big picture stuff. It's hard to feel that way in week 7. It really is. But when you can just bury a team in your division, bury them.
Someone pointed this out on the text line. They said, unfortunately, if they beat the Chargers, could Brandon Staley get fired? Before the season started, I said there's no way he'll get fired in season, but he's going to get fired if they don't win a playoff game.
If he doesn't make the playoffs,
for them to get
probably
fired in season, they would probably have to lose another 2 or 3 in a row, I think, for them to fire him, because they're not going to fire Brandon Staley until they know they're not in the playoff picture. Like, if they would have to be eliminated from the postseason conversation. I don't think they're firing him in the first 8 weeks of the season, but he's trending towards not being their head coach next year. Absolutely.
Well, and the Chiefs' next 2 games after this one, Denver obviously not easy, but then is easy, but then they get Miami and Philadelphia. Those are, they start hitting a losable stretch. Meanwhile, the Chargers, you're going to give them all the life in the world. They're going to beat you, and then they're going to take on Chicago and the Jets. Those are 2 very winnable games. I'm not saying the Jets can't get them, because the Jets just got the Eagles and almost got the Chiefs, but those are games you'd prefer on your schedule to others, That's the kind you could, and then it's Detroit, who's obviously very difficult. But then Green Bay, who doesn't look all that murderer's row. The Chargers schedule favors them at least for a little bit where they can rack up some wins, but you can make it so it's so hard to make the postseason just by beating them in this single week.
If the Chargers lose on Sunday, do they ever get it back above 500? You just went through their schedule. So if they lose, they would slip to 2 and 4.
I don't think they're going to win all 3 of those.
So right, they would slip to 2 and 4. And you were going through the schedule that they have. Maybe they win, even if they won the next 2, that gets them to 500. But then they have the Lions. The Chargers might not get back above 500 if they lose on Sunday.
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance because they would still have Buffalo and Kansas City at the end. The only stretch I could see is that if they hovered near 500 and then they won all 3 against, they've got 3 or 4 games against Green Bay, New England, and Denver. I could see 3 or 4 wins there, right? I mean, 3 wins out of those 4 games. Maybe they lose the Baltimore game in between in there, but it's probably not likely. That's the point. The division just do the math. The Chiefs would be 7-1 after they beat Denver. So you'd have 8 games left in the rest of the season. And the Chargers would already have 4 losses. They'd be requiring themselves to either go undefeated or have 1 loss the rest of the way, and still counting on the Chiefs losing 4 more games in their final 8. Maybe you're not as optimistic about the Chiefs as some of the rest of us. Do you really think the Chiefs are going 4-4 against what is the 22nd easiest schedule remaining? The 4-4, that gets you past one of the, I don't see it. I just don't see it. The division is over if they win this game. And they're without Mike Williams. That's a guy who has gotten them. Sure, Keenan Allen gets them too. But Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed have been shutting down number 1 wide receivers.
Yeah, that's their only real threat. And yeah, the Chiefs have fared very well against number 1s. But right now, it's not just about is Keenan Allen getting open. Right now, Justin Herbert's been off. How many missed throws did he have on Monday night? They actually, to Kellen Moore, their OC's credit, they schemed it up fine in some of the spots. Like, if you're the OC and you got Kellen Moore, if you're him, and you got Keenan Allen open for touchdowns, and your quarterback missed. So there were times where they had opportunities, but the Chiefs secondary is better than what the Cowboys are dealing with. The Cowboys got injuries all over the place. We've discussed Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed, 2 of the best cornerbacks right now in football.
Sorry, Texans pointing out 9 games left after 7-1. Same. Do you think they're going to go 5-4 or 4-5? And the answer is still no.
I've seen a lot of people mention this. I guess Ryan Fitzpatrick last night on the post-game Amazon Prime's coverage of the Thursday night game, he said he thought the Chiefs were going to lose like 3 of the next 4 or something. What is he talking about? No. They're playing the Chargers, then the Broncos, then the
Miami, and then Philly.
So he thinks they're going to beat the Broncos, I presume, but they're going to lose to the Chargers, lose to the Dolphins, and lose to the Eagles.
I mean,
Look, it's not impossible.
They're too good.
Has Mahomes lost 3 of 4?
Ever?
couple years ago, they had a rough start. Was it 3 or 4 though? When he was was
probably.
playing as the starter.
They were like 3-5 to start a season, so I kind of assume maybe they were right around there. Speaking of the number 1 seed, on the NFC side, I was just looking at the whole playoff picture the other day. I am now 100% convinced the Detroit Lions are going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. Talk me out of it. I don't know what I can get odds-wise to bet him gold. Talk me out of it because I'm getting ready to put some money down on the Lions to win the NFC or get the number 1 seed in the NFC moving forward.
Yeah, that was a preseason bet. I don't know if how many books are still offered. At one point, you could have gone on FanDuel and done, I don't know, maybe one of the other books, Barstool or DraftKings would let you do that. I was trying to find it on FanDuel, and I couldn't because I was curious to see what the latest odds were to be the number 1 seed. Their schedule is very favorable. We looked this up before the show. The Lions have the second easiest schedule in all of football. The only team with an easier schedule is the Atlanta Falcons.
Let me just list off some of the teams they have remaining on their schedule. Let's just start with the Bears twice. Okay? Do I need to tell you anything more about a schedule? They still have the Bears for both the games. They have the Raiders at home, the Packers at home, the Broncos at home, the Vikings twice.
Yeah,
what the hell are they going to be at the end of the year?
It still is. You know, and I both know though. They're not going to win out though. I mean, the Vikings, as much as they still are capable of beating the Lions at some point.
What also factors into this is I looked at the 49ers schedule, I looked at the Cowboys schedule, I looked at the Eagles schedule. All of those teams have way more difficult paths. I think this thing shakes out. I think the Lions are going to be maybe it's like the Titans, and nobody's going to take them serious in the postseason.
Right.
But I'm telling you right now, if you're saying who's going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC right now, you should look no further than of all teams. I can't believe we're saying this. Detroit.
I think
it's going to be Detroit.
Maybe more than any other team that's in this contender mix across the league, and the Lions certainly are part of that. It might be more important for the Lions to get the 1 seed, though, because we mentioned this a few weeks ago. It's like the NCAA tournament. They've got to stay off the 2 or 3 line, if you will. They need to be the one because you do have a Niners team and Eagles team. You don't want to have to play. You don't want to have to play both of them before you get there, or you don't want to have to play the Niners in the divisional round or something like. You need to be the number 1 seed. Get the bye. Make those teams have to play a game before they play you, and then hopefully you only play the Niners or the Eagles at your place in an NFC title game. I know it's nuts to think about Lions NFC title game, but that's a real possibility if they're the 1 seed. If they're the 2 or the 3, Cody, and they're asked to go right out of the gate in the divisional round maybe and have to go play Philly or San Fran, that's a really tough road to get to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl.
I'm looking at their schedule. I just don't.
Plus 460, by the way, for the number 1 seed for the Lions.
Okay, so is that a bad bet? Am I crazy for thinking this now? I just think, I can get worse odds, obviously, if I take San Francisco. Their schedule's just way harder.
I don't want to overreact to one San Francisco loss, though. You know, that's my challenge. I thought before last week they were clearly the best team in football.
Which means you think they're going to rack up a lot of
We're going to
wins.
Find out today and stuff about McCaffrey. The one thing we know about McCaffrey is they avoided a serious injury. He might miss Monday night, but he's not.
They can beat the Vikings.
He's not out. He's not out a month. Deebo Samuel's not going to be out a month. So I still think the Niners are a team. I don't know what the value is on them at this point for the 1 seed. But
they're the only other one I would bet. I'm not betting Philly. And this is, again, not a knock on Philly, but they have been a lot like Kansas City. They have sleptwalked through the early part of their schedule. They are 5-1 as a result of that. So they don't have to apologize to anyone based on where they are. I just feel like it's going to end up being the Lions. Could you imagine the Lions in the Super Bowl? Doesn't even seem right. Gold, your entire existence, the Lions have not been relevant. My entire existence, the Lions have not been relevant.
There's part of me that certainly, based on how week 1 went without Chris Jones and Kelsey, it would mean the Chiefs were also in the Super Bowl here, but I'd be all about a Chiefs and Lions rematch in the Super Bowl in Vegas. Absolutely.
Yeah, 2 of their 3 best players on the sideline. A full season to figure out their offensive problems.
Both teams are motivated. It's the Super Bowl, but still, the Chiefs week 1 lost without Chris Jones and Kelsey. So
if the Lions made it to a Super Bowl, they might have to build a statue for Dan Campbell. Already.
They should. They really should.
Already.
They really should if that happens.
They're relevant. He took the quarterback nobody wanted in Jared Goff. And
he's going to easily be the coach of the year.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Unless things fall apart.
Him or Mike McDaniel, right?
Unless things fall apart. Yeah, but if they're both, let's say they both finished with 13 wins.
It'd be Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell would win it.
Yep, agreed.
He was already the favorite. People like Dan Campbell. Not that people don't like Mike McDaniel, but Dan Campbell.
I thought when he was talking about biting knees and those press conferences are going weird.
Yeah.
I did not think that was going to work.
I think it's a
when
lesson.
When coaches start getting very weird, it very rarely goes well. But apparently with Dan Campbell, it's fine.
I think it's a lesson for all of us, right? With these opening press conferences, we joke about them.
About winning them?
Sirianni, everybody made fun of him. He had a terrible opening press conference. Nick Sirianni, and he obviously is one of the best.
It was hard
teams
because
in
we also
football.
watched Adam Gase's opening press conference.
I'm not
and then
saying
it
it
went
never.
Just
but he's
so bad.
He had the wandering eye. I don't know what his eyes were like up in the ceiling,
I'm
looking
still
around.
convinced
I
he
don't
was
know what's
high.
going on with that. Something was up with him. But in general, I think it's a reminder that the opening press conference, we always talk about winning the opening. If you're a good coach and you can
doesn't matter.
lead, it's going to be all right, even if your opening press conference sucks.
If they do get the 1 seed, though, what are the odds that Jared Goff also wins MVP? Because I think if
puts him in
the way that
conversation.
their schedule is, I mean, that might not be a bad bet to place right now.
19-1 or 16-1, I think. If you think that that's the path that they're headed on, it's not a terrible thought. Now, I think it still requires guys like Mahomes and Tua not ever having the big time performances, like just being kind of where they're at, where everybody's like thinking they're not playing great. I think it requires that just because of name recognition, fair or not, with the way the award and the voting goes. People hear Jared Goff and they're just like, well, okay,
MVP, Jared Goff?
That doesn't sound right. Fair or not, it's just there's plenty of flaws in the MVP voting process. It needs to be overhauled. They need to get some new batch of voters in there. I think that's been pretty clear. Even though Mahomes has been able to win
It's
it.
a very limited number of people who vote for MVP, right? It's just like 50 people.
50 something, yeah.
Are they like writers who
It's a
cover
combo.
teams? Or
I think it's a
Yeah, it's a
combination.
big combination.
There are
So,
some media members, yes,
The
but
late
it's not
Terez
just.
Paylor used to vote on it.
Yeah, it's not just media. I think
Pro Football Hall of Fame, do they get some people who vote in there as well? Maybe
for this or for the who are you saying?
for like MVP, do they
No, I think it's
they
a
get
separate-
people from that organization?
No,
to,
for the Hall of Fame though, that voting process, you actually have writers and people that actually go and basically pitch players and like sell. It's kind
Which
of
is
weird.
even weirder. You're going to sit
is.
in a meeting and be like, this is my guy. You should definitely put him in the Hall of Fame. You're like, what? This is an interesting
Yeah, they
system.
like vouch for
You
players.
imagine if they did that for the MVP? If you just like went in there and had to make your case? Be way more fun if they like televised it.
Lives. Don't give the NFL ideas, Cody. It's going to be on NFL Network.
Televised it, but then it couldn't be anyone famous. It was like it was a fan contest. So all of a sudden they're like, all right, Alex Gold, come to the stage real quick. You're going to make the case for Jamal Charles in the Hall of Fame. You're like, okay. Whoo, let's go. That'd be fun. NFL will televise anything eventually. Just give them time, man.
I mean, look, they
gotta
televise
put
a
a Super Bowl in
schedule release.
London
They
first.
televise a schedule release. I think we can televise anything when it comes to the NFL. All right, coming up next, though, the one thing that doesn't match the rest with this defense, plus the random question of the day.
Cody and Gold.
Last and probably most. ACTV5. It's been a while since we had Danny in studio.
She used to be a regular during this show.
She was, yeah. Someone did ask earlier, like, have you guys ever done the spear throwing or whatever that she offered you guys? Because she had the spear throwing. I don't know if she still does.
No,
that was
never.
pre-kid, though, so I don't know if she still has the backyard spear
Dude,
throwing.
are you kidding me?
I don't know.
Her kid probably throws
That's
spears,
true.
too. Are you
That's
insane?
That's true.
You know that kid could probably, already run a 5K and destroy us both.
That's fair. So, no, the answer to your question, no, we have not done the spear throw. Maybe we'll ask Danny about that. Again, also we'll have JT joining us, our former intern, who, of course, now works for the station on a part-time basis as well. You guys still hear him on the air a lot of times, so he's going to hang out a little bit for Club 610 as well. Before we get to that, this defense, right, it's been, I still think, undervalued nationally. I think people in Kansas City certainly appreciate and respect what this defense is doing, but they're going to be overshadowed in most cases, right, when Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. I mentioned earlier there was this media power poll that each week does different topics, and this week's topic was the defenses in the league, and who do you think's the best defense? And Cleveland and San Francisco got the most votes. After that, the Chiefs weren't the third, they weren't the fourth, they were like the sixth on this poll, and I think that speaks to where the name recognition lies, yes, on the defense, but because of how big the name recognition is on offense, that they're not going to – I don't know if this defense nationally is going to get their due until maybe the postseason if they're still doing this.
Probably not. The offense is going to be the focus. The offensive struggles will be a bigger story nationally than the Chiefs' defensive effort. I think some of that is name value, though, Gold. Some of that is they don't have Fred Warner with Nick Bosa. You know what I'm saying? I think nationally, if you asked a lot of people, the guy on defense they can name for the Chiefs right now is Chris Jones. They should be naming Nick Bolton. They should be naming Trent McDuffie. Hell, L'Jarius Sneed's been an underrated player for years, but it didn't reach to that caliber. Now that they're playing that level of defense, it'll take more than a few years, probably, in order to earn that right.
Years.
Or at least the rest of this year before people give you the proper
You got to
credit.
be a top defense for years for people to acknowledge what you're doing in an individual season.
A lot of times, sometimes it works that way. The thing, and I think you could look at this stat and you could be worried. I'm not in any way because I think it proves to their effectiveness despite or in spite of things. They're number 2 scoring defense in the NFL. But as it currently sits, they're dead last in the NFL in pressures. That probably surprises most people.
Definitely.
Especially because they're top 10 in sacks. They were 6th. Or tied for 6th before last night. They're now tied for 8th or whatever, because somebody gets a half game advantage on you. But when you look at the numbers, they are getting sacks but not pressure. And normally those two things don't compute. So you would think law of averages suggests, Gold, that one of those is coming back to the mean. Typically you would say if you're not getting pressure, you're not going to get sacks. To me, it just proves that they get sacks at the right time. They are good at creating pressure when they need to. And they're the best damn blitzing team in the NFL. They will send corners and linebackers from anywhere. They will send Chenal. They will send Bolton. They will send McDuffie. They will send Sneed. It doesn't have to just be the 4-down lineman, and for them, it very rarely is.
That's all Spags right there, though. I mean, he certainly has a lot of young talent to work with now, but this is, to me, if you're looking for the resume, the example, and proof, if you will, of an effective, one of the best defensive coordinators in football this year, really the back end of last year, but this year, this is the prime example. You said it right there. When they need to get home, there's nobody better right now as a coordinator manufacturing blitzes and therefore getting sacks, right? Like there's nobody better disguising blitzes. They're running in. A lot of defenses are doing this part, which is rotating so many different defensive linemen and personnel that if you're an opposing team, you're not able to know exactly what they're up to because there's so many different personnel packages. It's hard to pinpoint, and they're great at that's how they're disguising some of this. And that's a credit to Steve Spagnuolo and the job that he is doing. We've talked about this the last couple of years. He's the only coordinator that's won as a coordinator multiple rings with multiple teams.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. Which is surprising. I guess I told you at the time you said that. I was like, God, Wade Phillips.
Wade
Phillips had never done that. I was like, really? I was a little surprised by it. But no, that's where they are. They've also faced a couple of decent offensive lines. Like the Detroit Lions have one of the better ones in the league. So that might have been contributing to the lower pressure numbers. I can't get worried about it until it starts impacting their ability to prevent teams from scoring. They're the only team in the NFL who's allowed 21 or less points all season. Just them. In every single game. They are the second best scoring defense in the NFL. Look, I think Cleveland probably has a better defense because some of the things they're doing are historically low. across the board. They can't even get Deshaun Watson on the field, although I guess he practiced today. But I trust that those numbers will equate the other direction. And if not, I trust that they can get pressure when they have to. I think what it is that now that before when they were blitzing guys, sometimes they were getting burned. They always had to blitz. They never had one of the league's best defensive lines, and they still don't have one of the league's best defensive lines. So they've always had to incorporate blitz as a part of it. Now, though, because their secondary and their linebackers are so good, they're not getting beat even when they do blitz. When they send those guys, the guys who are left in the secondary are on their man. The linebackers who are left in the coverage, they're on their man. They don't have to worry about the screw-ups that might happen behind because their safeties are very good too. I mean, all of this stuff goes to why they can get away with less pressures and more sacks.
Yeah, plenty of trust in winning those one-on-one matchups in the secondary and that they're going to hold up. We talk all the time about how do you help out your secondary get pressure, but in a way, they're both just working hand in hand so nicely right now. It's why they're the number 2 scoring defense. Their red zone defense, of course, just a year or so ago, the offseason conversation was about red zone.
Consistent problem they have.
Right,
yeah.
red zone issues. This year, they knew something was up already with this team because in the offseason, the conversation was about being the top 10 defense in football. And so Steve Spagnuolo and this they knew they were on to something. I don't know if you got some true serum if they would have told you they'd be the second best defense right now. They may not have thought that truly deep down. But it wasn't about, we got to really improve on our red zone defense. There were things they needed to work on, but it was for the first time really that I can remember since we've been doing the show in the offseason, in-house, the team was talking about it being a top 10 defense as a goal and truly as one they could get to. And right now, heading into week 7, they're better than just a top 10 defense in football. I don't know how you can be like waiting for them to show you more. I don't know what else they have to do. Maybe they're not going to finish as the number 2 defense in football, but they have passed every test. Yeah, they're going to face some better quarterbacks coming up, and some of the numbers might fall back. But what I hope doesn't happen, because I think it will be foolish to say this, if one game against, let's say it's the Bills or let's say it's the Dolphins, if one game they give up like 32 points and the Chiefs win 38-32 in a shootout in Germany, it doesn't mean suddenly the defense sucks, okay?
Also, if that was the case and they win and they score 38, in a weird way, I'd feel better.
Well, yeah, because then the
like,
offense
all
would
right,
have
they
broken
can
out.
still just shoot out. If they lose 38-24, I'm feeling a little different.
But I'm talking about from a defensive end, right? Like,
sure.
That doesn't mean like, unless you think they're the 85 Chicago Bears.
I don't.
Which
they're very good.
We
They're
don't.
not the 85
like,
Chicago Bears.
The best defense in the league still will have a game where they give up 30 points. It does happen, believe it or not. So I just hope that now if it happens 3 games in a row, that's a whole different conversation. But the one performance where you allow that doesn't mean suddenly that they stink. This defense is going to be good all year. I have no doubt in my mind. They're going to be good. The question is, can they maintain the top 5 defense, or will they slip back to just being around 10?
Which is what we would have accepted going into the year, but that's also when we thought the offense would be more in line. The answer is I'm more accepting of it, just as long as the offense comes along. But I think it looks very clear they're a top 5 defense. Everything except for pressures points that way. Talent, execution, experience, youth, right? Athleticism, all the things you would want in a defense, certainly they have, at least at this moment.
All right, let's get to it.
Random question.
For you, Gold. For you, Drew. Over on the J Southland Tow Service text line, 913-586-7610. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, on the video streams as well. We'll take your answers there. I'm going to play you a clip and then ask a question. Chris Long, former NFL player, has a solution for what is happening when we see these fights with fans in the stand. I'm going to play you this clip, and then I want to know afterward if you think Chris Long is onto something here.
We got to put a cage in the stadiums. Insert sportsbook here, FanDuel, MGM, whoever. Holler at your boy, give me a cut. But a FanDuel cage where we get these fans in there and they fight a fair one. There's no higher ground. There's no grabbing onto each other's Dak Prescott jerseys. There's no any of it. It's mano-a-mano or woman-on-woman, and we find out who wants it more. And if you don't take the opportunity to squash your beef in this cage, you're gone. You can't come back to the games because it is too unsafe in the stands, because of the reasons I listed. I think if we go in the cage and we squash our disagreements in there, great. People can bet on these matches. Like if I'm in the stands and I'm sweating a total, I might stay in my seat in the event of a blowout. But a lot of these games, there's nothing going on in the field late in the game. Let's head to the cages. Chris Collinsworth, Al Michaels. Now here's a guy who can't fight drunk. Tony Romo's all excited. He's like, we're going to the cage, Jim. Bing, bang, boom. The problem is solved. If you fight in the stands, you're gone for life.
Do you think that Chris Long is onto something here?
So a couple things. One, I do think if you fight in an NFL or any stadium, you should be banned for life. Sorry, I don't care who the hell you are. If you get in a fight in the stands, you should be banned from that stadium forever. As far as this idea, look, is that part of the agreement, Cody? You get in a fight, not only are you banned, but you're sent to the cage. And not just like the in-house jail at the stadium. You're sent to the cage,
the fighting pits.
to go fight. You have to know that, like, if you walk in the stadium, you agree that if you're caught fighting, you're banned, but you also have to go into the cage and fight it out. Obviously, that's pretty funny to think about. But you should be these fights you see every week. These videos, man. I don't care if it's a college game. I don't care if it's an NFL game, basketball, whatever. These fights in the stands are absolutely ridiculous. And I know alcohol is usually the source of these fights. But if you get in a fight, you should be banned from that stadium forever.
What he's saying is like, look, if you're thinking about fighting, here's your alternative. You want to fight this guy. You've been complaining the whole time. Well, get your ass in the cage. Now, here's the problem. It does require both people to be like, fine, I will fight you and I will fight in this cage, and a few waivers here or there. But you can't tell me that this is worse than the current solution, which is just people brawling in the 300 level all the time. Stop it. Stop getting in these
there's no way,
fights in the stadium.
Like this Sunday at Arrowhead, there's going to be multiple. Like it happens every week, man. And not just Arrowhead. I'm saying like across the league.
It really is getting bad too. And there's people who are legitimately getting like seriously hurt too. In this process.
Sure. I don't know, guys.
He's saying he's trying to get rid of like you're fighting on a stair. You always see these people like slipping on stairs.
Yeah.
That's not a proper place to fight. Headgear on, gloves, cage, some ropes.
Okay, so
at the very least, you're offering.
You're talking a boxing match.
Yeah.
You're not talking UFC where you just or a bare knuckle brawl essentially.
I'm not bare knuckle fighting. That's insane.
Has this gone up just because in the last everybody's, last 15 years, like everybody's got a phone and everybody's recording and we just know about it? Or do we actually think there's more fights now than there were 10 years ago?
I think there's actually more fights.
Or is it just because everything goes viral now and we see it? Because fights, by the way,
I don't know.
As someone that has season tickets growing up, like fights happened in the 300 level at Arrowhead when I was 9-year-old me going to the games and there was some idiot yelling at somebody and they started shoving each other. Like that's not new. I didn't have a phone then to pull out and record and post on Twitter. So I'm just wondering if it's just we all see them more often. But they're definitely happening every single weekend in every stadium in the NFL in particular.
I do think Chris Long is right in this. The text line is pointing it out. It is always somebody in a Dak Prescott jersey. It's always some dude rocking some number 4 jersey ready to throw fist,
Someone said, how do they enforce like ban for life? I don't know.
I'm
not
is it like
sure.
facial recognition technology or
that
something?
yeah.
I mean,
They
I
get
don't
your
know.
information from the tickets. I mean,
I don't
there's
know if
ways
it's
that
one
the
of
NFL
those
works.
deterrent things, and if you're caught, then you can be
It is Bobby
prosecuted for.
Valentine. Sure, trespassing.
I'm guessing what it is it's also more of a. They say you're banned for life. It's probably somewhat of a deterrent thing, and then their hope if you do show up and you're caught, then you're charged. I don't know how that works. Now, if you're one of the famous fans or whatever now that are these super fans or whatever, and Chief Sahalik's not just walking in. He's in prison right now, but you're not just walking in to a stadium and nobody recognizing you.
I mean, if you were just in a different costume, you took on a different outfit.
That's what we said. But
yeah,
he's
that's the way
going
to
to be
get through it, I
behind.
guess.
He's going to be behind bars for a little bit.
When you go into the stadium in one of those super fan costumes, do you have to take the head off?
Of
before you go
course,
in?
of course.
I've never seen anyone go into the
There's
stadium
no
dressed like
way
that. I
you
don't
can.
know.
There's no way you can just walk in with that on your head and have them not question who the hell you are.
Apparently.
I've never seen that happen where somebody's had to be questioned, but you would assume that they would make sure that they are who they are, or they at least make sure there's nothing inside of the head or the headgear.
Someone
whatever
says
it is.
banned for life from stadiums is extreme. A little fight isn't that big of a deal.
It
You're
is-
at a sporting event. I just agree to disagree on that one. I think if you can't go to a sporting event without getting into a fight that causes a massive brawl, then you shouldn't be going to the damn games. Look, we all can enjoy ourselves, tailgate, drink. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to drink. That's crazy. Absolutely, I encourage you to have a good time. I drink at games too, but you don't have to get into. You don't have to get to a level where you can't avoid a fight.
That's also because you and I are not people who jump to fighting. I've never been drinking like I'm ready to fight this person. Like, no, that's the opposite of how I feel in those moments.
90
Time and place.
Like 90% of people have no problem at state. 99% of people have no problem at the
Currently, by the
stadiums.
way, the system here is, according to an article I'm reading, is they cross-check, right, all of your credit card information, all that stuff. So your name will get flagged if, like, Cody Tapp is banned from Arrowhead, and then all of a sudden a credit card with the name Cody Tapp flies up there, they might be a little suspicious. They are interested in facial recognition software. Very expensive. They're not doing that yet. So honestly, the truth is you could probably get in. If you got banned from Arrowhead for Life Gold, you could probably still get in the game. You might just need your buddy. You might just need to Venmo your buddy, and he pops for your beers at the concession
Someone
stand.
says they don't want to take their kids to a game because of that.
Yeah. I wonder if the league, the league is the league, I mean, outside of banning them from stadiums, that obviously is probably the best way to do it. But is there any
Outside the cage idea, you
is
mean.
there, no. Is there any line that needs to be crossed further than this, where like somebody
mean?
actually has to be hospitalized?
Well,
Somebody
that
has
has happened.
Like, what does it take for the NFL to actually step in and do something? Because right now there's nothing being done, and there's people, as you said, that are being hospitalized. Parents don't want to take their kids to the game. The tickets are already stupidly expensive anyways.
Yeah, but they're selling out the games. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really, as much as it's real that there are people that won't go
It's one of
because
those
they're
things
kids.
the NFL turns their head to because they don't care.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah.
In a way they don't.
Yes, I would, to a certain extent. Like, I think it's real that there are parents out there that won't go to a game because they don't want to take their kids in that. I think that's very much real. That happens. But they're selling out games all across the league still. So until it actually impacts the true bottom line of their product, I don't think they truly would do something. By the way, I don't know what the solution is. I really don't.
Yeah.
And, somebody would say, like, don't do alcohol. Well, okay, they're not going to not sell alcohol at football games. It's, like, just not going to happen. So I don't know what the solution is.
I feel like this
other
is just
than, making people know that there's severe consequences to getting in a fight at a football game or
don't-
any sporting event.
I don't even want to blame it on COVID or say this is
a
only
real
a
serious conversation.
I don't want to say
Sorry.
What a bummer
Sorry.
of a random
Sorry.
question.
Sorry.
I don't want to say it's like a post-COVID thing, but I feel like a lot of people are just irritated by their personal space being affected more now after, having the whole 6 feet apart sort of thing. Like, you don't want anybody in your personal space where in a stadium, first of all, the seats aren't separated enough for you to get any personal space anyways. Number two, you're around so many other people, you might get a little bit more irritated. I think that the comfort of having your own personal space a little bit is gone when you go to a football game or a sporting event or a concert or something like that, where these things start to pop up a little bit more.
All right, that's the random question of the day. Thanks, Cody, for the
What?
question today.
Mine
thanks.
was meant to be lighthearted, and you two decided to.
That's because you want to turn it into a. Can you imagine?
I was just offering another solution, but apparently.
Can you imagine if the game's a blowout? Hey, let's cut to the cage here, where it's a 42-0 game. We're not watching this. Let's see these two guys fight in the cage.
Clearly not the direction we were going to go.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I wasn't going to sit here for 8 minutes and act like it was real to just have a cage fight for fans that can't
You
control
could have
themselves.
offered alternative solutions.
I think I did. I think that's exactly what I think that was the whole genesis. I think that was the whole conversation.
Better alternative solutions. Different ones than, I don't know.
Who's most likely at this station to get in a fight at a stadium?
In a
How
fist
about
fight?
that? That's a more exciting random question for you.
Most likely person at this station to get into a fist fight at the stadium?
Yeah.
I think it's you, Cody.
No way.
No,
I've
he
had
won't.
3 fights in
Actually,
my whole life.
It's not
No
Cody.
chance.
It is not Cody.
Who is
A
it?
stranger once punched me in the face on the street and I didn't fight him, Drew. You think that I'm going to, like a complete stranger, I didn't fight them, so no chance.
Who else can you see though?
Like, it's one thing. I'm talking about like a fist fight, not like verbally talking crap.
Today or like in
yeah.
their mid-20s, you know?
now.
Okay, I was about to say mid-20s Bob, I could see like.
Really?
Let's see
You
if Nixon
think?
will- like in his 20s, I can see that.
Interesting.
I thought you were talking like right now. I'm
talking about right now.
Yeah, right
Text
now.
line says Dusty or Bink. A lot
Actually-
of Dusty or Binks.
Dusty's that's a good one.
Look, I've been at a sporting.
Bink, yeah.
Cody
Have you
knows
ever
that
been in a
sporting.
fight, Drew? Before I
No,
answer?
absolutely not.
Plenty of sporting events where, like, there's, in fact, at the AFC title game, I was at the last one this past year. Cincinnati fans behind us, like, if they're talking crap, then like, I'll definitely talk crap back.
You're the most likely
Yeah.
to. How about
Trash
this?
talk.
You're not the most likely to start a fight, but you might be the most likely person to get in a fight.
You think?
At the station because of that. Because if
To
somebody was saying something to me,
intervene?
I don't care. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
something back. You would say something back, which is how I've gotten
Yeah.
in the very few amount of
But I'm
arguments
also,
I've been in my life.
it just depends on the setting. But like, yeah, I mean, like, if
You're asking who's the biggest trash talker in a game is really what I'm asking here.
sure.
I
Okay.
think you are in there. Dusty
probably.
is certainly a part of this conversation.
Probably so. Yeah.
I mostly just mind my business, you know?
I'm mainly that way too. I do think if I can get into it a little bit if it's fun. I don't go at
People are all picking you, though, because you're the Bengals fan.
I don't go at people for opposing teams. Like if we went to a game, I would trash talk you guys. But if some random Chiefs fan was like, "Hey, the Bengals suck, dude. You cheer for a terrible team," it's like, all right, thanks for your opinion. Let me get back to the game. And then if you're around other fans, then you talk trash. High five and everything like that. You get excited, pumped up. But I rarely trash talk people unless you're like really irritated. It takes a lot to get that out of me.
Oh, man.
Text line seems like bad
Dusty's
news for Dusty.
a lot of names coming in for
Dusty's
Dusty.
got quite the reputation here.
Yeah.
Just without question.
Because Dusty would say something that he doesn't care if it makes you if
Right.
it makes you feel offended or not. He's going to say it, and at that point, that's where things could boil over.
Okay, so the very few fights I've been in my life, that's exactly how I was a young, dumb teenager, and they'd said something, and instead of just being like, my bad, which is a response I would give now, I said something like, seems like a you problem. Not, to be clear, the correct response to somebody who wants to fight you.
You also have to understand when you're in the stadium and when you're talking trash, you don't know how many drinks the guy that you're talking trash back to has had. That's the difference. You know, you're not two sober people smack talking.
Someone said it definitely would have been Nick before. I don't know.
So again, this goes back to what you said a few minutes ago. He wouldn't have started the fight.
But he would have said the thing
very
that got
easily
in the
would
fight.
have got his ass beat just because of something he said.
Yes.
That would have been Nick, 100%.
He would have been on this list.
There's no, I mean,
There's
he was
no
one-
doubt.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. Good stuff. Not exactly where I thought the random question was going, but at least we've gotten there.
All right, coming up next, Club 610 Friday here. We'll have a couple special guests stopping by, and it's all presented by Jay Rieger & Co. right here on Cody and Gold.
Cody and Gold.
The facts.
for the Chiefs and Chargers on Sunday afternoon. First off, Cody, if you what's the cocktail today from Rieger?
New York Sour is the cocktail. I don't know, Allison Howard, who's from the KC Currents with us.
Yes.
Danny Welniak will be here shortly. Allison, just real quick, would you like a drink?
Of course, it's Friday, the day after announcing an incredibly momentous, amazing partnership.
Did
Never
you get
been
to
done
ride on the
before.
train?
No, it was just owners. Wah, wah, wah. Next announcement, we're bringing it back out, and I'm going to steer.
There you
I was
go.
going to say, you got to get on the train at least once. So New York Sour, it's whiskey, lemon juice, simple syrup, and then it gets like a wine floater. So just like a little wine floater on top. Have never had it before?
Okay, and it's using, obviously, the whiskey, KC whiskey.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, currently, do you guys have a whiskey with...
We sure do.
Okay, so, hey, look, all I do is count...
Really, I'm here to help support them in every way possible.
I love it.
We are such givers here at Kansas City Current.
So the next bottle I get from them, I'll ask for the Current one. They only give me like a bottle or two at a time. This one has Sporting KC on it, but I'm happy to get the KC Current one the next time. So I'm going to make a drink. You guys chat for a minute. And
Absolutely.
then when our next guest gets here, I'll go get her too.
Yeah, so we got Allison Howard, as you said, team president for the KC Current. Real quick, let's go to back to yesterday, I should say, and the big announcement that you were referencing with what we have all known prior was just KC Current Stadium, but it's got a different name heading into the spring for the first year of this new facility that's going to open up.
That's right. CPKC Stadium has an amazing ring to it. This has been a relationship that really started with the Longs. Angie and Chris met Chris Creel, who is the CEO, met him over a year ago. Super impressed with him. And really everything that Canadian Pacific stood for. And then, of course, they had known everything that Kansas City Southern had, right? And just the longevity and the impact that organization has had on Kansas City, which as we dive into all of our partnership conversations, the community impact is really number one for us, right? And it's funny, I've worked in sports for about 20 years, and even 4 or 5 years ago, community was kind of an afterthought, and it was like, oh yeah, sure, okay, we'll go and do this. I don't know if it's Kansas City, or I don't know if it's brands that are just really wanting to become a lot more integrated into the community. But this is only our third year, and we have worked with over 500 organizations to date. Like, that is really incredible for not only a brand new club, but really a pretty small team. I have 50 different people up in the front office that are working on our business every day. So we're small, but very mighty.
That announcement, that's where, Cody, for those that were listening, weren't familiar with the details of the announcement yesterday in terms of how you guys went about it. Cody referenced the train because the ownership group was on this train that came into the press conference yesterday. That's what Cody was referencing as well. But the stadium, too, like we've talked about it a little bit. I do have season tickets for next year as well.
Thank you.
And the stadium looks awesome. So tell us, we joked earlier this week about the announcement with the food opportunities as well with Joe's KC. So everything's on track, though, for the spring with the stadium.
Yeah, it really is. And, as I was telling Cody on our walk up here, we were kind of holding on to a bunch of other partnership announcements until we could do this one. So you're going to see a lot more coming, and Joe's was obviously a really great big one. And then now every Tuesday, you are going to get a new local food and beverage
Teal
story.
Tuesdays, right?
Teal Tuesdays.
Okay.
You're paying attention.
Hey, I'm up to speed.
So wait, does that mean you guys already have? Do you guys have pizza coming to the stadium?
There will be pizza.
Do you have a business yet you're partnered with?
That is a plead the fifth.
Okay, we bring.
You're going to have me back in a couple of weeks to talk about that one.
There's a show, joke but also serious. We have a running bit on the show that we want to start C&G Pizza. Okay, it's Cody and Gold, and we would love to discuss opportunities, for C&G Pizza that doesn't even exist yet, with the KC Current. That was the conversation today.
Why don't we start with us? box and have a
Perfect.
pop-up.
Perfect.
And you can test it all out.
I love it. That was part of the plan at some point to get C&G Pizza. You know, we have a staff we think that can work already. That's about all we got, though. That's
Well, and you got the idea.
That's it. That's all we have right now.
And an entrepreneur, spirit. That's got to count for something.
We'll get Cody's mic turned back on there as well. We got Danny Welniak walking in the studio as well. Obviously, you guys, a lot of you know her from her days at KCTV5. She used to be, before it was officially Club 610, she was just coming in on Fridays for roundtables, but now it's turned into a club. She's now the vice president of communications for the KC Current. She's a big reason why we're allowed to play in these media games and embarrass ourselves at halftime as well, as Cody's passing out these cocktails. Danny, what's going on?
Ooh la la! This is a much better reception than what I got when I came in on Fridays. This
Danny,
is so
make you one.
unacceptable.
You don't drink, right?
I don't. No.
Okay.
So,
I was like, I'll get you a drink. I want to make sure you're
It's
covered.
because you know me. So yes, no. If you've got a nice Diet Coke on the rocks, I would take that for sure.
I love it. I love it.
I would have happily done that.
We've definitely improved Club 610 and now turned into a club here on Fridays. It's a great way to head into the weekend as well. We were just talking about everything going on with the Current and obviously the stadium. Exciting time for you guys. But the media games, have you graded our performances yet?
Wow. No, because I don't want to embarrass anybody, and I think everyone should be on the same playing field. Look, I previously was not somebody who believed in participation trophies, but now taking this job and being in charge of the media game, you all deserve participation trophies. Let's go.
Physically
Winners
trying, right?
In my heart. Yes, exactly. You guys are winners to me, so that's all that matters.
It's been so long, Danny. It's been so long since we had you in. It's nice.
I know. This is great. I feel like I'm back in the old stomping grounds next to somebody who's absolutely amazing and changing the face of women's soccer. So I am very grateful to be where I am right now, but I do love you guys and I do miss my Fridays.
Are you a little worried about doing radio with your boss?
No.
You know, just knowing that
she should be worried about doing radio with me.
There it is.
Yeah, keeping up.
Yeah,
That much I do worry about.
All right, so we've got the cocktails from Jay Rieger and Co. Everybody good to go.
I'll make Drew one in the break.
Okay.
I only made 4.
We need to figure out how to make it teal on the bottom.
Oh, you know what? I didn't think about that. I could have done
the challenge.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to look at Jay Rieger's menu. Essentially, they just gave me access to a spreadsheet full of a million different drinks.
This is really good, though.
This
is very good.
That is a beautiful cocktail right there.
We have the team president when her first response right away was, "How can we incorporate teal into the drink?" You know, we've
She
got
also
the
noticed we had
president.
some stickers in the hallway, and there wasn't a KC Current.
Oh, that's true. That's
I'm
true.
not in charge of building decor. I don't know.
Well, if I
That's
could
true.
even break in here, I would come in and late tonight and slap some stickers around. But this is like the Pentagon over here. My Lord.
It's a lot of key card
it's a
access,
lot.
apparently, just to get into the building.
Yeah, like 6 times.
Well, I wasn't anticipating. I mean, otherwise it'd be great. It'd be like, hey, just come on in. Love to see you. You know? In a
You don't
perfect
want
world.
that either.
Depends on the person, right? In your case, we're probably safe. Some
Probably
other people.
yet to be seen. How much longer is this interview? We'll see.
Yeah,
We've
exactly.
never met. I mean, you never know until you meet someone for a little bit, right?
You mentioned just the community engagement that you guys are involved in with the KC Current, but it's not just in Kansas City. What you guys are doing has global reach right now with the stadium in particular.
Yeah, it was. So for the sports listener, the business of sports listeners, they will know that most naming rights deals, like 90% of them, are done by hometown companies, and that is it's typical because the homegrown companies really can understand the vibe of what the team is trying to accomplish. And they want to have an impact there with the players, with their employees having access to the hospitality, obviously community. With us, we had a dozen different conversations going, and the vast majority were international companies. So that just goes to, share everything Danny has been able to do already before we even got to this announcement about who is talking about us.
And then the stadium itself, though, just right, the first women's professional soccer venue in the world, correct?
Correct.
And that right there, obviously, is a huge, huge deal. And it
Gold
happens to be
already bought
right.
his season
That's what I
tickets.
said.
He's good.
I said we're good to go for next season. I'm looking
He said
forward
he'll
to
let
it.
me come with him sometimes.
You're gonna have people knocking down your door, by the way.
Well, I know you guys are close. I mean, I can see on the seating chart. Or I mean, there might be just like a couple hundred season tickets left, something like that.
Yeah, it's very, very limited. And I had another interview this morning, and they were talking to me about, oh, we can't wait to bring this club and that club. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, we are holding back, of course,
Sure.
group sales to, because getting the little girls, and by the way, the little boys, to come to our stadium, watch our players, and normalize women's sports is huge. Again, I've been fortunate enough to work in sports for over 20 years. My, previous job, I was at the Lakers. I have two boys. They're now 14 and 12. They loved going to the Sparks games as much as they loved going to the Lakers games. And that is the message that we really need to give our little boys, our younger boys, right? And that's something that we're so proud to be able to do with Kansas City Current.
JT, you're the youngest boy on this show. Have you been out to the KC Current
By the
game
way,
yet?
Allison, he was our former intern, and he now works part-time for us as well. So that's the backstory.
So he got promoted,
Lucky
essentially.
dog.
And, we wanted to make sure that he said he wanted to come to Club 610 at least one time. So, we gave him the invite.
Well, it was because Quinn always got the Friday shifts, and I was like, I never got the Club 610 as the intern. And so I actually have made it to a Sporting KC game a couple times. I haven't made it to a current game.
Boo!
I
That
know.
is so
I know.
unacceptable. We're going to change that here in the next 30 seconds.
Let's do it, because me and my girlfriend were trying. Me and my girlfriend.
I don't know if you
we've
have
been-
tickets, Danny, but I don't know.
We might find some somewhere. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because me and my girlfriend, we like soccer. It was just we never found the capability of getting a ticket to go to a game, either because of our time with working, because I also had a second job because of intern. You ain't getting paid too much.
We did pay you some.
You did. I mean,
You're
listen.
drinking on Fridays now at 1 o'clock.
Oh yeah, that is true. I'm saying,
payment of
I'm
some
saying,
sort.
I'm saying
Intern's
my
dream.
parents were my parents were like surprised I was getting paid in general because when they were an intern, they never got paid back in the day.
That's true as
So,
well.
but working two jobs, it was hard to go to a game. But I always watched the highlights, and I was like, why? It was so funny not funny. It was so impressive to see how many people were at the game being where it was, because it was a big stadium, because it's obviously where Sporting plays. So it's a lot of people that invest, and people keep going, oh, well, it's Kansas City. There are not going to be many people. Fans in Kansas City love their sports. I mean, think about it. Royals, when they're bad, they're still going to have fans. When the Chiefs were bad, we would wear brown sacks on our heads so we wouldn't be recognized at the games. So we will show up to our sports events.
It's a boom city. You got a lot of good stuff going for us.
Yeah. Well,
new airport, new stadium.
Last summer, when Danny and I started, we had about 4,000 people coming to games, right? And then we just eclipsed over 15,000 on our last game on Saturday the 7th. So there has been a tremendous amount of work that the front office team has put into making the club recognizable on a global scale, getting all the fans here to know how to purchase tickets, when our games are, who our players are, and it's been a pretty quick clip, and then we are looking forward to opening the stadium in March.
What does
Alex?
everyone think of the drink, by the way?
Oh, drink's
Oh,
great.
yeah, it's good.
Everyone good?
Drink is
It's-
terrific. It's
It's
You
beautiful.
know, it's funny because I had that weight loss surgery, so this is really strong for me. So I'm taking little sips at times.
Fair
I
enough.
was-
Nice.
Yeah, I in high school. So 4 years ago when I graduated, I was 450, and so
Get out of town.
no, so I'm down 180ish pounds since
Way to
4 years.
go.
So like. I want to join Club 610, but I was like, I got to make sure I'm not going to
time.
I'm not
I
going
get it.
Yeah, I got to make sure. It's tasty, and I like the colors. Even though, like you said, there's no teal, there's
I
no
guess I
red,
should've figured that
there's
out.
purple. I mean, at least we're not playing the Vikings this week, because I would have
That's
problems
true.
with this.
That's true. We
I already
got
kind of decided on the drink. I'm sorry.
It's a Club 610 Friday here on Cody and Gold, presented by Jay Rieger & Co. We've got Allison Howard, team president for the KC Current, in studio. Danny Welniak, VP of Communications. You guys are very familiar with her on the show, joining us. We're hanging out. We'll be talking some Chiefs football a little bit later on as well. But you mentioned your time, Allison, out in L.A. with the Lakers. Just obviously completely different city and everything involved in entertainment options and everything there. But to Cody's point about where Kansas City is at now as a city, both with sports and just in general in the growth, What's the biggest difference you maybe have noticed since coming back to Kansas City and working with the Current compared to what you were doing with the Lakers prior?
Yeah, so I mean, the Lakers have had a 40-year head start, right? I mean, that's like what you have to. And when I was at the Lakers and we were selling the jersey patch, right? Because all the NBA teams have that ability to sell. We compared ourselves against EPL teams. The teams that are getting $60 million for the rights across the front of their chest, on their kits. And so that was the mentality I was able to pretty easily streamline and bring over here to the Current, right? The league is growing leaps and bounds, and the new addition of these teams is incredible, and new ownership groups that are coming in are incredible. But, we don't want to limit ourselves to comparing ourselves just to other NWSL teams or other women's football clubs across the world, right? I do want to get to a place where we are comparing ourselves against the Lakers or the Dallas Cowboys or the Yankees, right? Like the really big, huge sports teams, or even outside of sports. Who are the brands that everybody recognizes and loves, and why do they? Like, that's the smart stuff that our marketing team is really diving deep into in a really intentional way but also to make sure that we understand who our fans are here in Kansas City, right? What's going to make them click? What's going to make them follow us on social media? What's going to make them buy our merchandise? What's going to make them come to games? Or if they can't get to a game, still come downtown to outside of our stadium and enjoy the atmosphere, right? Like, we're going to get a lot more sophisticated when it comes to all that fan intel.
I mean, the color scheme is a hit too. I think we've known right away. I mean, the
great.
merchandise, the color, the teal color. It's that's we've got a couple of their shirts as well.
Yeah, no, I like the color scheme. I was, and we are on this show, let's be honest, somewhat cynic sometimes of new uniform designs.
Everybody's. It's easy for people to. I don't care what league you're in. New logos, mascots, colors. Everybody's very harsh on them, generally speaking, right? And it was just a year and a half ago or so when you guys had the announcement to change to the Current, right?
To the Current, yeah.
To the Current, sorry, yeah.
I was like, oh, we're going to go into kits already? Let's go. Let's start
No,
talking about
I already
kit and all the Heartland kit and all that stuff.
I've heard that you guys have new kits maybe coming next year anyway, right?
We sure do.
Okay, yeah.
Wait, same color scheme?
We sure
I can't
do.
pronounce
I
this.
don't
Oh, man.
know.
Okay, we'll just have to see. Look, we're trying to, Danny, you missed it. We're trying to get a pizza spot at the new stadium.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, how high up do we have to go in order to?
But you got the team president right here.
Say you're talking to.
Is this as high as I have to go?
I think we do a
one of the
pop-up.
top dogs. Let's do it. I'm so
Let's
down.
taste it.
You know what? We can between the two of us right here. We say
We're
yes.
gonna make it
We'll
happen.
do it on the stadium before it's even finished being built. We'll go do it like where the train was yesterday.
I love it.
Just in the meantime, that feels like a good spot to be until we get the rest of the infrastructure.
And the
figured out.
drink will be teal, we promise. Not drinks. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of toppings could we put on there?
Oh, we could get very creative.
I mean, we can the red's covered there.
For sure.
the teal colored.
We get creative with that, probably. Yeah.
Olives.
Oh,
Green peppers? I mean, we can get green, but we can't get teal.
I don't know.
Do you like green peppers on pizza?
Those Chicago hot dogs with that like neon green relish that they
Oh, maybe
put
we
on
need
there.
to
I'm
hey,
sure we
you
can
could
get.
do like an Alfredo sauce and put color dye in it, and then you got
there you
That's
go.
what I'm screaming.
Okay.
Hey, I worked at Minsky's, Papa John's. I've worked at pizza, so I could be the cook for
Some
you.
sort of like
We really
cilantro
culinary
crema.
expert
All the
right here.
talent's coming out of this kid, man.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I didn't know we were gonna have to hire him for the pizza shop. We were in the very early phases of this. We're gonna have to figure
Look
something
how
out.
much this business is already growing in the past 20-minute conversation. I love it.
Well, that's we've tried a lot of different things on this show from a business standpoint, or at least I've tried to convince them to do it. As far as we've gotten, we raised money to do the Creed is Good video.
That was a good one.
And then other than that, we mostly just spend our money on random stuff like this. Raise a bunch of money so we can have cameras and have drinks by Jay Rieger. We really try to cover our end. Do you guys, as far as the city goes, we all feel that same thing. Like I said that earlier, but I actually mean that. Kansas City is a boom city right now. It's very much between the World Cup coming this direction and the new stadium. You guys almost have a new stadium. The other two teams are going to either have massive renovations or a new stadium. I know the Royals are going to have a new stadium at some point. And then the airport and all that stuff feels like a good time to be in KC.
Yeah, I spoke at the chamber breakfast yesterday, and it was a small group of maybe 70 people. And that was the consistent conversation around all of the tables and everybody giving their recognition speech was, it has never been a better time to be in Kansas City. And, I can just say, again, my family moved here last summer.
And Danny, you're not originally from KC either.
Nope. No, you're not.
No, I'm from Dallas.
And
So,
I mean, the
big
amount
city
of
mentality and that kind of change that you're just seeing over the course of the time that I've been here a little under a decade now. And just from when I came here to now, it's like, wow, we're going to have places to live after the World Cup lives here. I don't even, or comes here. I don't even know. Like people will see it and it is a hidden gem. And we all think we're like, oh, of course, Kansas City is amazing because we've been here and we see it day in and day out. But as people come in and more people nationally, internationally come in and see it, I really do think that there's going to be a lot of people that want to stay here.
There's so many more developments that are going in all over the city and massive money that's going in.
And from a player perspective for you guys too, I mean, not in the league itself with the new stadium and what you guys have set up, I mean, this is becoming, I'm sure, a destination type of franchise for players. But what's kind of the feeling you get from international players, obviously, that are playing in the NWSL coming to Kansas City? I'm sure a city that never crossed their mind a year or two ago either.
Yeah, I think one thing that was surprising to us and to Cammie, our general manager, Cammie Ashton, was the amount of outreach that she received from agents and directly from players wanting to come here, just from the organic way that Danny was able to get the news out about our stadium and also our training center. That training center is incredible.
Yeah, we had a chance to go out there a few times. I think for the media draft, actually, was when we were out there a couple of times as well. Beautiful facility. And for the World Cup, there's some plans, right? Maybe to have a couple of the teams use that as a facility?
And the stadium will be used as well.
Okay. That's good to
So
know.
lots of activity.
This is going to be busy. Concert yet? Were you there yet?
That I just put a meeting on the calendar to talk about it next week.
You name it, it's probably going to happen at the stadium.
Yeah.
Okay, this is exactly why we need to get C&G Pizza going. We're good. We're good.
It all
We're
comes
squared
back
away.
to C&G Pizza.
We're good to
Really,
go.
the reason why we invited you in was just for a pitch.
Actually, I don't think it
you
was
know?
that.
That's what it was.
Actually, I reached
yeah.
out to Danny a couple of months ago because I said, hey, why don't we see if a couple of the players wanted to come in and hang out
Yeah,
for
we'll
Club
still have to
610.
do that
We
at some
offered them
point.
cocktails, but then I thought maybe Danny wanted to come in after your guys' announcement yesterday.
I appreciate that greatly. Look, the players wrap up training around 1 o'clock, so it's that like,
Gotcha.
I don't know if we'll be able to get them out here
What's
or
the
not.
off-season situation? When's the next best time?
That is a great question. Probably early off season or January.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's
Those are fine.
set our sights on some January players.
Is
Get
that
a
we're
little
gonna-
crazy.
Otherwise, it's too early or too late. You know, the show ends eventually.
I guess that's true. No, you guys are going to be here forever. I feel like you guys are a staple in Kansas City. Between all of the investments, you're like Patrick Mahomes now. You're going to own a little bit of everything.
That's pretty remarkable. I mean, he's now the F1 team,
much
the
lower
latest.
level.
I mean, he says his goal is an NFL team at some point. We were talking about the story a few weeks ago. So Tom Brady obviously is now out of the league, so he can own a share of an NFL team. And the big national story this week is that Mark Davis, the owner of the WNBA Aces who just won, but also the Raiders, that some of the other NFL owners want to kind of squash the Tom Brady part because he's offered Tom Brady 10% of the Raiders at a heavy discount, like as in $165 million when it should be for 10% like $500 or $600 million. And the other NFL owners are like, yeah, that's not happening whatsoever. But at some point, it would not surprise me if Patrick Mahomes owns an NFL team or a portion
I'm sure
of
you
an
both
NFL
know
team.
that there's a big benefit in having like Patrick Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes and all those associated with your brand.
Oh, I mean, Brittany was there with us yesterday. She rode the train, right? I mean, like, I got to say, I didn't know what, coming into this thing of, with Brittany and then, as Patrick's been added in, but good Lord. I mean, I tell you what, whatever we ask of them, they are just awesome and incredible.
So your next step is Taylor Swift. That's really
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
That sounds like
She's on the short list.
I was going to say, Travis Kelce going to show up opening night with Kelce. Then you're going to have business
Yeah,
booming.
there you go. There you go. Talk about global reach at that point in time. Get Taylor Swift out to a KC Current game in the future.
I'm assuming open invite then, right?
Always an open invite for Taylor Swift. We would probably have to hire like the White House security
No
to
kidding.
work around that. But,
No
Well,
doubt.
did you see the TikTok when she first arrived at the first Chiefs game? They all thought she was in the popcorn tin rolling in.
yeah.
That's what you should do with
You
it.
should you could actually do that.
The Topsies popcorn. Everybody thought they snuck her out in that. I was like, that's because I guess at concerts, I've never been to a Taylor Swift concert, but I guess that they have her in these.
She like comes essentially in like a box so that people don't see her arriving to the stage.
Okay, interesting.
whatever
never
she
heard of
wants.
that.
Yeah, she
We
can have
would also
whatever
make
she
that
wants.
work.
You know what? If it's a popcorn bin, if it's just a fully loaded.
If it's a
like-
huge C&G pizza box,
Hey,
whatever.
there
If
it
she
is.
wants to take the train in, you guys are fine, right?
Whatever. We're hanging out here. It's Club 610 Friday, presented by Jay Rieger & Co. We've got Allison Howard of KC Current, Danny Welniak of KC Current, JT, our former intern, hanging out as well. We've got drinks and things getting dumped over as well in the studio. Who knows
pressure on the
what's
gap
going to
there.
happen in the final half hour. We'll talk about our show bets and a little Chiefs football coming up next right here on 610 Sports Radio.
Cody and Gold on 610 Sports Radio, brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete. For asphalt, concrete, and parking lot maintenance, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Trusted in Kansas City since 1994. Online at GANNasphalt.com.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack. Like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Your attention is precious. Pulled in a million directions for a million different reasons. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City works hard to make sure your health insurance isn't one of the many things distracting you from what's important. By making healthcare easier to navigate, we help keep your focus on the moments that matter most. Like dinner with loved ones, letting you focus on you. That's the benefit of Blue. Learn more at BlueKC.com.
Hey, it's Carrington from The Drive here. Come watch as Kansas City takes on Miami from Germany with me Sunday, November 5th from the other place. They're opening up at 8 o'clock, so you can catch the game, get some amazing breakfast pizza, also a Bloody Mary bar. We got 2 of the top teams in the league going up against each other, and you need a first-class viewing experience to enjoy the game. So make the other place your sports watching headquarters with 3 great Kansas City locations: Shawnee, Olathe, to downtown Overland Park, plus coming to Mission and Belton.
Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/win and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/win. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be present in a state where lawful to wager, must be 21 plus and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700 or visit KSGamblingHelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana, visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit GamblingHelpMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles let you create your own delicious combo. Choose from a sausage biscuit, egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, and a medium hot coffee. But it's obvious which combo's the best. Sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or 2 savory sausage biscuits. Whichever you pick, you can't go wrong. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The John Clay Wolf Show. Here's what's going on in the Wolf Pack.
This gal came up to me, hey, what's going on? I'm like,
Well, I'm going up to my room. Really?
On company?
And I told my wife when I got up there, I said, I think some gal wanted to come up here with me, but I didn't figure this would go over very well.
I got a present for you.
Right.
Honey, look what I found in the lobby.
The John Clay Wolf Show, every Saturday morning.
The John Clay Wolf Show, Saturday mornings 8 to 11 on 98.9 The Rock.
Discover, this is Danny.
Hi, it's Jen Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Are you hungry? Because everyone left after the asparagus sorbet.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
Yep, I'm looking at the pages right now.
Thomas's translation company just lost its only 2 Spanish speakers. Without the right replacements, he'll be in problemas.
Yeah, we'll have those ready. Tonight's gonna be a late one.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
At Granger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call quickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-330-2929. That's 800-330-2929. 800-330-2929.
The 610 Sports Radio phone line is brought to you by Onder Law Injury Lawyers. Visit getjim.com.
Chiefs coverage is brought to you by Renner Garage Door. Forward and back, R-E-N-N-E-R.
Renner Garage Doors, servicing and installing garage doors in KC for over 60 years. Family owned and top rated. Residential, commercial, service, and repair. R-E-N-N-E-R, forward and back. Renner, the company that does garage doors. RennerDoor.com.
All right, back here, it's Club 610 on a Friday, presented by Jay Rieger & Co. A couple special guests hanging out with us here in the 1 o'clock hour. We've got Allison Howard, team president for the KC Current, Danny Welniak, vice president of communications. We got JT hanging out as well. Of course, Drew, our producer, Alex Gold, Cody Tapp with you. We'll get to our weekend predictions for the Chiefs, presented by T-Mobile, and how we see the Chiefs-Chargers game going a little bit. I guess we could talk a little football as well. What are you guys making of the Chiefs season so far? We can start with you, Danny. You used to cover this team, Danny.
Man, you're throwing me right under the bus.
I'm going to, yeah.
Right off the jump.
How close of attention do you pay now versus what
It
you
is
used to?
so wild because it is like polar opposite. I could be like, oh, the Chiefs are playing this weekend? Excellent. Cool. I don't even have to worry about being there 12 hours early to do live shots in the morning or staying, 5 or 6 hours late and running through locker rooms and stuff. So, no, I pay pretty decent attention considering, 2 of our bosses are kind of involved with the Chiefs.
Turns out.
A little bit, So, and I'm going to go super positive because my bosses are associated with the Chiefs. And I think that Patrick Mahomes is doing a phenomenal job this season. And I love the fact that McCole Hardman has come back. So
how about
let's
that?
go. He was one of my favorites in the locker room to cover. So I'm sure all of the media members
Now
are
do
pretty
least
excited
favorite.
to have him back. Least favorite. Maybe that's Chris Jones. No, I'm just kidding. He actually is one of my favorites.
McCole
too,
Hardman
so.
told the story yesterday, which you're now in the PR world a little bit, so this is kind of interesting to get your perspective because, like last year, and in general, as you know, when he got drafted, people have been pretty harsh on him because expectations haven't been reached in people's eyes.
Right.
But we found out yesterday that last year, at one point, he was in the hospital for 10 days. He couldn't feel his legs, and Then he comes back and plays in the AFC title game, gets hurt again, and people were like, all right, fine, I'm glad he's gone. And then now he's back with the organization. It's one of those where it's like, if everybody would have known the story last year, this guy was in the hospital, I think everybody would have been a little more appreciative and understanding of what he was going through. But we just found out yesterday.
It's amazing how that stuff comes around, right? I think it's very interesting because now being on this side, you learn so much more about, what do the players want? What is the perspective and perception that they're having these conversations with about their families and internally within an organization? Like, you have to really love and lean into that. And so a lot of players, they want that toughness attitude. They want I don't want to look weak. I don't want people to think badly about me. And so I think a lot of that you see in retrospect and in hindsight because they want to be the warriors out there. They want to be the heroes and they want to go out there. And I mean, you see it with Kelsey and Patrick all the time. Like, they leave a game, they're more taped up than Iron Man and come back in and you're like, what in the world is going on with you guys? But I think the same is true of McCole. He didn't want people to look at him differently. He wanted people to think of him as someone who was injured or hurt and was gutting it out and coming back in. And so I think this side has definitely given me a new appreciation and perspective of that, of the what ifs and what are they thinking and what's going on behind closed doors. So it does stink because now you look back at it with 2020 vision and you're like, if you would have told us that, we would have been more empathetic to you. Like, we would have understood why you're not having a great season. But in the moment, you don't necessarily think that big picture. And I don't think athletes necessarily think that big picture in that moment.
That's probably why he mentioned the injury-prone stuff. He's like, I can't believe anybody ever called me that. I had one very serious injury, and outside of that, I was available for a huge majority of the time. That's what we were joking about earlier. Someone had asked us on the text line, used to come on, and Danny had promised us a chance to throw spears at her house.
Yeah.
She has a spear target at her house.
I haven't lived up to that.
You did invite. In fairness, you invited us though a couple of years ago.
The timing didn't work out, and then someone's like, "Well, maybe they're not doing that anymore because she's got a kid." I'm like, "No, her kid's probably throwing the spears as well." Have you met Danny? Her kid's probably also doing it.
Yeah, we got one more year until she can participate in Spartan races, so I'm counting down. The
So is she gonna do it?
Oh,
she's gonna dominate.
See, I told you she'd be
She will win.
I have no doubt.
She will nail that
Kids
spear
twice
throw.
her age.
She will. There's no question.
Oh yeah, she is your daughter.
Bandana on, mud all over the face, spear straight into that. She's gonna own it.
So is she already training for this?
Yes.
Danny's had her trained since she came out. She's like, let's go.
She came out.
Those
there
are
on
her first
fear.
words, actually. Let's go.
It's my daughter's the exact. She's a tender heart. She's just like, no, that's fine. She did athletic sports, and she was like, excuse me, I'm sorry, you're trying to go somewhere. Please, no bother here.
Let me get out of the way.
Please, my apologies. You're clearly moving towards something. I'll allow that to occur. It's just funny how different they are, right? How old are you? Said
Yeah,
how old are
12
yours?
and almost 14. So I have a 6th and an 8th grader.
Oh man. I'm not ready for that age.
Yeah.
I'm not mentally prepared for that. Mine are 5 and 7. That seems fine for now.
Yeah.
That feels like a big jump to 12 and 14.
Yeah, it's not as scary yet. We're still pretty sensitive. We haven't hit the puberty. Hope that's okay to share.
Well, they'll find out.
And so, yeah. Although I have heard with boys, it happens like literally overnight, and the hormones can change and blah blah blah, and so we'll see. But so far so good. I really do have 2 sweet boys.
My mom would say beware. My mom would say beware.
Yeah.
She had 3 boys. All of us are over 18 now. Yeah.
Smells a lot.
Wow, it was so funny because I'm the oldest, and then my middle brother. We were all the competitive. Both of us competitive. We would play 3 sports growing up. Then the youngest one, I don't want to tackle no one. I don't want to hurt him. He's the kindest soul.
Tender heart. Let him live.
And so me and my brother always try to toughen him up, and my mom's like, "You're such a bully." I'm like, "We're trying to toughen him up."
He's probably still a tender heart. He probably
is.
still is.
He's a very tender heart. He's more into the animals. He's a poetry shower, so he shows ducks and stuff. While me and my brother are sports lovers. So he
shows ducks.
Shows ducks. He's actually on his way to Colorado right now to
That's
show
a thing?
it. Yep. He's won.
So he's competitive just in duck showing.
Yep, he's won $5,500 since his sophomore year in high school because of ducks.
As Allison said, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes ago, we're finding new things out about you, JT. As just within, I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's crazy. He is crazy, but he's crazy that he came up with this idea. But we live in the city limits of Raymore, and they've decided to make a new rule or law that we can't have ducks anymore. So my parents are now fighting
Because
the
of
law.
you guys?
Yep. Yeah, because of my
Wait,
parents.
you guys at the forefront of the duck fighting in Raymore.
Dude, you were our intern for months. You think that we didn't want this kind of drama on our show?
Dusty,
you think we didn't want
knew
duck
about
wars?
It. Dusty, me and Dusty talked about it when you guys were gone for that one day. The whole time on Cody and Gold. Yeah.
Man, we're missing out.
You guys missed out.
Yeah, it was.
so.
I didn't know. It's a war right now going at Raymore right now. It's so funny because we'll get a letter and my dad's like, all right, let's go at it, and we'll go back at it, and comes home and I'm like, oh, they pushed it off for a little longer, and so yeah, I think he's at the age right now where he can't show any ducks after this year. So after this year, my parents are like, oh, well, we're gonna sell.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh. I understand. It's obviously very serious.
Your brother's
about it,
aging
but,
out of the duck
this
showing
is
contest?
Yeah, it's like
He's retiring already, and he's 18.
he's out of his prime. He's out of his prime of duck showing. Who knew? You know, we know there's a
They
lot
don't
of
have adult contests?
I guess not.
there's a lot of problems in this
It's
world.
called
Who knew
4-H.
people are fighting the good fight of duck showing? I didn't know.
It's 4-H. It's called 4-H. If you're
Okay, yeah,
so
I've heard
once
of
you get-
4-H. Yeah, I've heard of 4-H for sure.
How old's your daughter, Danny?
3. She just turned 3 last Monday.
So at 4, they'll let them throw a spear and
Yes.
crawl under stuff.
You would be amazed at what
Wild.
kids can do at 4. Like, I am ready to get her in flag football. She's already been in soccer leagues. So I'm like, game on. Spartan throwing is next.
My kid spends 14 hours a day dancing in the living room to music. It's the exact opposite of. She has zero athletic interest.
Hey, dancing
we did soccer for a
is
while.
athletics.
Dancing is.
We did soccer.
Exercise.
We did soccer for a long time. She really liked it for the camaraderie. Great teammate.
Yeah.
Cherry picker for goals. Never earned her own goal. Very clearly just working off the backs of others on her team. Loved it. She loved it for a while.
I
she
love
did.
that for her. I love that.
Me too.
My daughter's the one.
There's no
who's-
offsides when they're that age. It's fine.
Oh yeah, it keeps the game moving.
No, my daughter's the one who I literally have video of like all the other kids like and their parents are trying to curtail them over like, you know, in the middle of the pitch, and my daughter and husband are over at the goal taking practice reps. You will score goals. And that's what she says. She says, I'm scoring goals.
Yeah.
I'm a goal scorer.
Man.
Why else would I be out here?
Exactly. Come on.
Know your role. That's
Know
fine.
your role.
She knows what she's supposed to
She
do.
knows she's a goal scorer.
Eventually, with those kids, you just have to keep like, hey, can you pass just every once in a while?
Nope.
Just help out the other
No.
ones.
That's appreciative. You
'Cause
know what?
we-
That's really nice of
There
you
was
guys. That's not my kid.
daughter's team. She was on. She played with the same team for like 2.5 years. They won. They lost a single game in that entire time. They ran through the league, but they had one kid who was like Messi. She just scored. She could score 10
Every goal.
goals in a row if she wants to. So eventually, the coach would be like, "All right, look, your job today is just to pass to the other kids, help them score some
You
goals.
must pass 5
You're-
times before you shoot.
You're good. It's enough." They get down like 1-0, and we're like halfway through the game. He's like, "All right, go nuts for a minute. Just score as many as you want for a second. Enjoy yourself." That kid's she's already playing like 2 ages up.
Yeah, what's
they
her name?
eventually.
Do you have names?
She's
Please?
very good.
Was she gone the one game you lost? Is that what the problem was?
Maybe she was gone every once in a while because she played with multiple teams through multiple leagues. Very busy kid. She's very good. That's the only thing she wanted to do. All she does is spend time in her backyard playing soccer. She was 6 years old.
Talking about youth soccer in the area, and earlier, Allison, you mentioned just it's not just girls out there, but also trying to get younger boys basically into women's soccer as well, and watching that as well. You guys did a soccer camp fairly recently, I think, right, for youth. How important is that? You mentioned community partnerships, but continuing to grow the game. We know Kansas City is the soccer capital here of the United States.
Yeah. So we have where Danny and I go to work every day up in Riverside. We have our training center. That's fully blown out for the players, right? I mean, we have massage therapists, nutritionists, chefs every day, full staff of athletic trainers. And then there's 2 pro fields that are dedicated to our players that nobody else will ever play on except for them. And then we have 5 more fields that are for rent. For the vast majority is soccer. And then we have 6 more that are in the works that will be coming. So we'll have 1.5 million people coming through our sports complex on an annual basis once those 6 other fields are built out. Hotel, a couple of QSRs, quick service restaurants. I mean, like, this will really be
C&G Pizza.
C&G
Pizza. Yeah, perfect.
Part of this quick service
the
restaurant.
stadium. It's super important, right? I mean, we're Riverside. My kids play hockey. They play travel hockey. They don't play soccer. My youngest son did play in a youth club, kind of for fun. And we were fortunate we played at Swope, right? But I hear from a lot, and we live in the Brookside area, but I hear from a lot of people that are north that the drive, right? And, I mean, listen, I come from Los Angeles, so I'm like, you're complaining about what?
There's not really traffic here.
22 minutes is kind of a long drive for people in Kansas City.
That's 100% correct. So, I mean, it takes me 22 minutes to get out of my driveway in Los Angeles, right? But it is, if you're up north and to get down to where a lot of the soccer fields are down south, that's a long time. That could be 45 minutes, right? And then plus the time for your kid, blah, blah, blah. You're almost at like 3 hours. That's a long time. So that is another reason. We do feel so strongly about growing the sport for boys and girls. And that was a big part of expanding the sports complex, especially up in Riverside area.
All right, let's get to some show bets, though. We do these on Fridays
you gotta help us wager.
for the weekend around the Chiefs game. We do a little show bet. We put our show money together. We try to make some more money for our show bet. We do this. Obviously, we're in a legalized sports betting state now, so it's pretty simple for us to do. Hopefully, Missouri can get on board with that at some point in the very near future as well. But Chris Jones, anytime sack, or just a sack, I should say, is kind of the bet that I like this weekend. 0.75 over Chris Jones is -110. If he gets a sack, it'll be 6 straight games with a sack, because we know he sat out week 1. He'll be the first player to do that since Clay Matthews did that in the league. So I think Chris Jones getting a sack on Justin Herbert comes Sunday afternoon.
Is it even odds?
-110.
Okay, even money odds. I'm fine with that. We usually choose 2 out of these 3. Drew, what's yours?
We could do a double anytime touchdown. So for Travis Kelce and Kenneth Walker III, I think Travis was -140, and then Kenneth Walker was -185. You pair them up, it's +164.
I mean, Kelsey's always a popular touchdown bet, right? Especially with
As long as he can keep dancing
it's National
with Taylor
Tight End
Swift.
Day on Sunday too. It's National Tight Ends Day.
National
Will
Tight End Day.
Taylor be
Yeah.
there?
I
don't know. I haven't heard any
Question.
Yeah, there are offshore. You believe it or not.
And is she riding the Chiefs plane?
Yeah, exactly.
another one.
Exactly.
You got to place those bets slightly less legally in order to accomplish
those
that.
are offshore only.
You guys are going to hate me. Can we just take the MVS over?
What's the number?
14.5.
That's so low. Receiving
That's
yards.
the lowest
He's been
total ever.
He's been a disappointment so far.
I know, but
this year.
14.5. We can't get over 14.5. That's a single catch.
It really is asking.
One single catch.
Isaiah Pacheco, his over-under is 16.5 for receiving.
Yeah, but he went over that against the Broncos last week.
Jerick McKinnon, 17.5. So there's 2 running backs that have a higher over-under than MVS.
Yeah, I mean, MVS is getting the snaps.
You guys going to vie, by the way? Just even ballpark, just guessing. You like any of these? One versus the other? I'm guessing you both like Travis Kelce, since we discussed that earlier. Kenneth Walker, he's just a running back. You don't need to worry about that.
Wait, so we're like picking one? Because then I'm definitely going with the Chris Jones one. He's definitely
okay.
getting
That's
that.
where we're at.
No
I would
question.
say, yeah, that's going to happen.
All right,
Okay, so
let's
the
get
Chris Jones one.
I actually like Travis Kelce because Kenneth Walker.
Sounds
would be
like I'm
the
getting voted out here.
The worried one would be Kenneth Walker, but he has Arizona. I think he gets a touchdown there.
Fine.
And Travis Kelce always finds a way to get in the end zone against division rivals.
This is when I,
He's got
this
a
is
new
when I
dance
actually
plan.
bet them.
Yeah, dance plan. Also, my brother says, watch out. If Miko plays, he wants Hardman anytime touchdown.
Yeah,
money.
that's a popular one. McCole Hardman, as Danny was bringing up earlier, is back with the team. It sounds like he's going to be available, at least as a punt returner on Sunday. We'll see if he's involved in the offense at all. So we'll have Cody put those bets in. We'll have him put those in. Real quick, let's get to our game predictions, though, presented by T-Mobile. They're brought to you by T-Mobile. Whether you're home or away, T-Mobile keeps you connected to Chiefs Kingdom all season long. Drew, we'll start with you. Chiefs, Chargers, a little after 3 o'clock at Arrowhead. How's this game playing out?
Chiefs 31, Chargers 25.
25 is such a weird number.
Double-digit win for the Chiefs.
Really?
No.
You said
31-25.
31-25.
So 6-1 win. They
I thought he
covered the
said
total. but
31-21.
He does think high scoring.
31-25.
Have the Chiefs scored 31 points this year outside of the Chicago game?
I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
I think
But
just
if you
the
put the
Chicago
asterisk by the Jets, you could have.
Well, they would have gotten to 30
Yeah, they
if we
would've
give
been
them
at
that
30, yeah.
touchdown.
So the Chiefs are 5.5-point favorites. Let's go, JT. What do you got?
I got 30-20 Chiefs.
30-20 Chiefs. Okay, 10-point win. Danny.
28-17 Chiefs.
Trusting in the defense, I like it.
Yeah.
Defense is playing well.
And only touchdowns. Wow.
What about you, Allison? How's this game playing out?
Chiefs.
That's fair
works for
enough.
us.
Fair enough. That's fair.
We're not betting the line anyway.
Yeah.
27-24. I'm not going to bet them to cover
Gosh,
the game.
you guys, really?
The Chargers play them tough.
They do.
The Chargers
They
just
do.
play them tough. Even though they're 2-3, they play them tough. Every game
I don't
there's a
think the
field
Chargers are going to get above 20. I'm putting it out there. I'm saying
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, the defense is very good. They haven't allowed more than 20 points to anybody so far this year. The Chargers are, though, technically the best ranked or the second best ranked offense they played this year outside of Detroit. So, I mean, it's a better offense than they face, too.
You could go with the soccer score line, 3-2.
I was thinking 5-2, 5-2.
How about you score
24-17 Chiefs. I think it's 24-17. I do think this defense holds up again. My question with the Chargers is, Keenan Allen's their only source of offense here as of late, and they're able to scheme him up, but we saw Justin Herbert miss him a couple times. It's a short week for the Chargers. Yeah, they were at home on Monday, but a short week. The Chiefs kind of deal with the mini-bye. They're the way healthier team. I don't know if all the offensive problems for the Chiefs are resolved in the red zone just because McCole Hardman is back with the team, just like that. But I think this defense is the real deal. The number 2 scoring defense in football.
Very good.
I agree with you, Allison. I think this is under 20 for the Chargers. I don't know what their team total is at FanDuel or anything right now, but I think 24-17 Chiefs. They get to 6-1, and then they get the Broncos again the following week.
Do they ask? So we know that there's a big partnership in Missouri. Do you guys also support pro sports wagering?
We are working with the other sports teams to
Part of this.
Okay, you're part of the alliance to say let's do this. Okay.
Yeah, there's all the pro teams are on board. The Sports Betting Alliance.
It's already in Kansas. Just give it to me on the Missouri side. That's all I'm asking for.
I think you're preaching to the choir for a lot of people on that one. We've talked about it. There's some stuff has been sent over to the Secretary of State. There's a chance it gets on the ballot next year. We'll see. So there's a chance of that happening.
So I got a question for all of you. So every time the Chiefs play the Chargers, Mike Williams goes off. He's a big body wide receiver.
Yeah,
He's hurt. Obviously out. Do you think this could be the wake up call for Quinn Johnson, who I really liked in the draft? He's a big body coming out of TCU.
He hasn't done anything yet.
They don't play
a lot of Chiefs fans wanted them to draft him. Very talented wide receiver out of TCU, as you said, but I don't believe he's been much of a factor at all. So I don't know why. Against McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, both been two of the best corners in all of football.
I wonder what his over/under is in yardage, because
I'd have to look.
If it's like in
it's
the
probably
20s,
low.
if
He
it's
has
like
6
the
catches
20s,
for
if it's in
44
the
yards.
20s, you might look at the low there, under.
I'd be kind of surprised if it's not in the if it's not below. It might be MVS territory.
Text line enjoying they're calling my KU math. Yeah, I did not hear Drew properly on the score. Yeah, not double digits.
Now
KU.
they're knocking your own.
That's right.
Alma mater.
Rock chalk.
How many math classes did you take in college?
Somehow I got stuck taking calculus. Why am I
That
doing
sucks.
radio? Why did I need calculus? I don't know why.
I got COVID, so I got through that with what's called online and got through the math classes easily. I ain't gonna lie, math is not
Am
my
I the
cup of
only
tea.
person who works in sports that liked math?
Maybe.
I love
she's
math.
on the business side, so
Yeah.
I mean.
I like adding.
Danny, do you like math?
Yeah,
Lots
I
of zeros.
do not like math.
Okay.
I'm also one of those weird people, though, who I really like English, and I also really like science.
Okay,
So it's
I'm
like
a history
that,
guy. I'm a history guy.
Thank you both so much for coming in. We had a lot of fun here at Club 610. You probably didn't know what you were in for, so we appreciate it.
Loved it.
Always
Thank
in for a
you.
good time with y'all.
Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. We're back at it on Monday. Coming up next, The Drive with CDOT right